Chapter 1235. While Yi Tianyun was thinking about how to save Elder Ji, they looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Are you crazy? That's not the Heavenly Grid Palace, and there's a Divine Lord there. If you rashly go down, you'll definitely be caught. Ji Shuilian anxiously said, I am very grateful to you for saving us, but it's not worth it for you to take the risk for us. They really wanted to save their elder, but they couldn't let their benefactor take the risk, especially when he was facing the Divine Lord, not the Lord of Heaven. I know what I'm doing. You guys can stay here this time. Yi Tianyun did not explain too much. This time, he did not bring them along with him. It was undoubtedly safer for them to stay here. But Ji Shuilian's expression was extremely anxious. They did not want to watch their benefactor die. Yi Tianyun did not say anything else. With a light wave of his hand, they came out of the evil spirit puppet's base. He also came out of the puppet. You guys wait here for my news. It should be safer here. Even those evil spirit race would not be able to imagine that you would be hiding here. After Yi Tianyun finished speaking, he returned to the evil spirit puppet's body and disappeared from their line of sight. They couldn't stop him even if they wanted to. He quickly disappeared from their line of sight. Bastard, he actually left just like that. Ji Shuilian was so angry that she stomped her feet. She wanted to chase after him, but she didn't dare to, in case she was discovered by the evil spirit race. As a result, the evil spirit race was very sensitive to their divine spirit race. If a little bit of light attribute energy was released, they would immediately sense it. Therefore, she did not dare to chase after him. It would not be good if she ruined Yi Tianyun's plan. Elder sister, will big brother Tianyun be fine? Ji Tian's eyes were filled with worry. Although they did not understand Yi Tianyun well, they were filled with gratitude towards Yi Tianyun. They had never helped Yi Tianyun before, but Yi Tianyun had helped them without hesitation. This made them extremely grateful. Even if he had spied on their martial arts, at least he had saved them. After they left, they would also repay Yi Tianyun. He will definitely be fine. Ji Shuilian bit her lips. She could only hope that Yi Tianyun would return safely. Even if they could not save their clansmen, they were still grateful. After all, Yi Tianyun did not owe them anything. The other divine spirit race were also very worried. If Tianyun was captured, it would be troublesome. It should be said that if they were caught, they would definitely be killed immediately. To the evil spirit race, the human race was really worthless. The reason they were able to survive was largely because of the divine spirit race. The evil spirit race was not willing to kill them immediately, so they raised them and slowly absorbed their blood essence until they completely died. After all, if they lost a lot of blood, Tianyun, they would be killed again, they would be injured and all. After, they would not they would. After Yi Tianyun left, he entered the evil spirit puppet's body again and flew towards Dark Heart City. As soon as he entered Dark Heart City, he was immediately locked on. However, he could clearly feel that it was not Elder Tesso's spiritual sense, but another Divine Lord's spiritual sense. This meant that if he came in from here, he would be immediately locked on. No matter where he went, he would be followed. Yi Tianyun tried to fly down and walk on the streets of Dark Heart City. Since Dark Heart City was called a city, there must be bustling streets. There were many evil spirit race people trading here. However, trading slaves was prohibited here, mainly because it was too chaotic. Hence, they did not trade slaves, nor did they release them. Those who violated the rules would be chased out. The rest were all here, trading the treasures they had found or stolen. It was quite lively. Yi Tianyun went over and pretended to buy something, bargaining with the evil spirit race in front of him. However, it was meaningless. He was still shrouded by the spiritual sense. Then, he roughly understood what it meant. The divine lords who were guarding here were like guards. As long as the evil spirit race came in, they would be covered. They would not target a specific person, but all the evil spirit race. Aren't they being too cautious? Are they guarding against their own people? Tianyun felt helpless. If that was the case, it would not work for him to come in like this. After completing the transaction, he quickly left Dark Heart City. As soon as he got out of the city, the detection disappeared without a trace. Sure enough, it only covered Dark Heart City, not even the people who left. I can only take a gamble. Tianyun's eyes were filled with determination. He came out of the evil spirit puppet and took out the divine teleportation stone. He used the divine teleportation stone and appeared next to the prison cell in the next second. Before he left, he had set the coordinates with the divine teleportation stone. This meant that he could teleport in any time. He was betting that he would appear suddenly and the divine lords would not know. After he came in, he immediately used the invisibility skill to hide himself and his aura. Although a divine lord could see through him, the premise was that the spiritual sense would search carefully. Otherwise, it would not be able to find him. I must not be discovered. Tianyun prayed in his heart, hoping that he would not be discovered. After waiting for a while, he realized that no spiritual sense was searching for him. This meant that he had made the right bet. Then, he immediately rushed to Elder Jiue and started to break the shackles on the prison cell. Elder Jiue was undoubtedly the most important, so he had to save the most important one first. The rest could only be done slowly. If he could not save her, he would at least save the most important one. Dang dang dang. At this time, Tianyun continuously tapped on the prison cell, trying to break the shackles. Every time he tapped, the shackles became slightly weaker. Under his rapid tapping, the shackles became dim in the blink of an eye. Then, he punched them. Bang! The prison cell made of dark stone was easily broken. As long as the energy on it collapsed, it would be very easy to break it. After the shackles were broken, the Divine Spirit clan was stunned. Before they could react, Elder Jiue disappeared. Then, another prison cell was quickly broken, and the Divine Spirit clan members inside were easily taken away. One by one, they disappeared into thin air, leaving them dumbfounded. They had never seen such a strange thing before. In fact, they could see part of it, but now that their energy was shackled, they could not see clearly even if they wanted to. Naturally, they did not know what had happened. At the same time, Elder Tesso, who was in the underground of Dark Heart City, suddenly opened his eyes. His killing intent soared into the sky. What's going on? Who broke my prison cell? Chapter 1236. Elder Tesso immediately felt that the seals he had set up had been destroyed. The moment Elder Jiue's cage was destroyed, he had already sensed it. No matter how the seals were broken, he would immediately sense it. There seemed to be no difference, but it would undoubtedly be easier to destroy the seals. If he really used violence to break them, the difficulty would skyrocket, unless his cultivation level increased greatly and reached the late stage of the Lord of Heaven or a Divine Lord. Otherwise, if he destroyed one, Elder Tesso would immediately rush over. The seals set up by a Divine Lord were not so easy to destroy, so he had not planned to break them by force from the beginning. That would not be worth it. At most, he would save one, and Elder Tesso would definitely catch up. Now, as long as Tianyun is fast enough, he can save most of the people from the dragon's nest. He did not dare to say that he could save everyone, but at least he could save most of them. Crazy breaking mode. Ding! Increased breaking speed by 64 times. Break! Tianyun punched the cell and broke it again. In the blink of an eye, he saved all the divine spirits and kept them in his living ring. This place was originally full of divine spirits, but now it was empty. The whole process did not take a long time. The speed at which he broke the seals was too fast, making these cells look like paper. He continuously attacked the weak points, and his strength was not weak to begin with, so it was not difficult to break them. Instead, it was very fast. Especially with the crazy braking mode, his speed increased by 64 times. How could it not be terrifying? Many abilities could be stacked in the crazy mode, including alchemy and artifact forging. It was not a problem for him to break the seals. These seals were similar to divine seals. It was difficult for the evil spirit race to cultivate divine seals, but it did not mean that they could not do anything. Elder Tesso was proficient in this area. His grade might not be high, but with materials like the dark stone, it was not a problem for him to suppress the divine spirit race. Therefore, Yi Tianyun's speed was extremely shocking when it came to breaking divine seals. If he comes up. Yi Tianyun's heart shuddered. He quickly ran out of the passageway, and arrived above the two blood pools in the blink of an eye. A heavenly divine spear appeared in his hand, and he aimed it at the development elder, who was lying in the blood pool. Humans. They, who were originally indifferent to everything, suddenly jumped up. Their eyes were filled with sharp killing intent, and their shriveled bodies immediately swelled up, becoming full of elasticity. From his old appearance, he suddenly became young and strong. It was very incredible. When they sensed danger, they could only erupt. Otherwise, they would definitely be the ones to die. Die. Crazy damage mode. Divine Dragon Bloodline, erupt. Phoenix Bloodline, explode. Almost all of his abilities burst forth. There were so many development elders here, so he had to deal with them as quickly as possible. Otherwise, when Elder Tesso arrived, he wouldn't have time to deal with them. Moreover, the most important thing was to save the godly spirit race, so he had to get rid of the development elders. Otherwise, they wouldn't let him save them. After the eruption, Yi Tianyun's fighting strength increased crazily. When he suddenly thrust out his spear, 3 or 4 development elders were easily pierced through. Then he swept his spear forward again, and another development elder who was rushing at him was cut in half at the waist. This move scared the development elders, and they hurriedly retreated, wanting to escape. Assassin, assassin! They shouted. They knew that they were no match for him, so they could only choose to escape. Want to leave? Leave your lives here, you bastards! Yi Tianyun waved the spear in his hand crazily, and directly nailed them to the ground. All the development elders were killed by him in one fell swoop, and no one was left alive. These development elders' hands were full of blood, so how could he let them go? Moreover, with so many experience points, it was even more impossible for him to let them go. After getting rid of the development elders, Yi Tianyun's eyes turned to the godly spirit race. He flew towards them, and quickly pulled out the dark stone nails on their bodies, and saved them one by one. These godly spirit race were the easiest to save. He only needed to pull out the dark stone nails, and it all depended on his speed. He just needed to pull out the dark stone nails, and it all depended on his speed. At this point, this little bit of pain was nothing, and it was good to be able to survive. After being saved, they all fell down one by one, and he put them into the living ring. At this time, a roar came from the hall in front of him. Who is it? Elder Tesso turned into a bolt of lightning as he whizzed over. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived here. At this time, Yi Tianyun just happened to save all the godly spirit race. When he turned his head, he saw Elder Tesso pouncing towards him, and opened his hand to release the power of a divine lord. Almost in an instant, the area in all directions was locked by Elder Tesso's power. Teleport. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and he immediately used teleport. The teleportation god stone needed a little time to be used. If he used the teleportation god stone now, he would definitely be attacked. In the next moment, he used teleport, but he slammed into an invisible wall. He failed to escape. This was the first time in his history that his teleportation failed to escape. What's going on? I failed. Only now did Yi Tianyun realize that Elder Tesso's imprisonment did not only use his own energy, but also the energy of the entire Dark Heart City. Surging black energy wrapped around him from all directions, forming a thick wall, and sealed him inside. Want to escape? Impossible. Elder Tesso sneered. Outsiders who break in have never escaped from my hands, and you are a human. I don't know how you sneaked in, but I know you are dead, and it will not be easy to kill you. He was angry, very angry. All the development elders around him were dead, and they died very tragically. So many development elders were dead, and it was a great loss. Their cultivation was not good, but they were experienced, and they could give good advice when making decisions. Now that they were all dead, he was shocked and angry. Dark Heart City was so heavily guarded, and besides him, there were 2 Divine Lord Elders locking on to all intruders. How could a human suddenly kill his way in? This was unbelievable. Chapter 1237. Upgrade Instant Transmission. Ding, deducted 100 compressed crazy point. Ding, successfully upgraded instant transmission to level 6, teleportation distance increased to 50,000 miles, next level requires 1,000 compressed crazy point. The only way Yi Tianyun can think of now is to upgrade instant transmission and make it more advanced. He doesn't believe that he can't teleport out of here. It must be because his level is too low that he can't break the shackles. Teleport. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed with a bright light, and his body burst into a dazzling golden light. Shio. He broke the void and disappeared without a trace. He was not restricted by the energy here. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared, and the moment he disappeared, the black energy that wrapped around him fell on nothing. Everything happened at the last moment. Yi Tianyun was almost caught. If he was caught, it would be difficult for him to escape. When Elder Tesso felt Yi Tianyun's aura disappear, his face suddenly changed, he quickly waved his hand, and the black energy in front of him disappeared. In front of him, there is no one, let alone catching the assassin, not even a hair was left. Disappeared. Elder Tesso was shocked, he mobilized the power of Dark Heart City, even a divine monarch can't escape, how can a human escape? Especially when he felt that he was just an earth monarch. No one would believe that an earth monarch could escape from his hands just like that. Elder Tesso, what's wrong? At this time, 2 divine monarch elders came here, they just came to ask questions, but when they saw the bodies on the ground, their face changed. Expansion Elder is dead? Their expressions were ugly. If the Domain Lord were to find out, they would definitely be severely punished. You too, don't you feel anything? Elder Tesso turned his head and looked at them angrily. Feel what? We didn't feel anything. They really didn't feel anything, they just felt a strange aura here, so they quickly moved here to check. The main thing is that everyone is covered, as long as they come in, they will be covered, no exception. Therefore, some places that no one went in, they will not be covered, it will only waste their spiritual power. Damn it! Elder Tesso stomped on the ground, and with a boom, the ground caved in. A human brat with the cultivation of an earth monarch managed to sneak in somehow. He even managed to escape from me just now. I couldn't even activate the power of Dark Heart City. So strange. Their faces all changed. They were all aware of Elder Tesso's means. Unless it was an Empyrean powerhouse, otherwise, there was no way to escape from his hands. However, it was clearly stated that he was at the Earth Monarch realm. For a human of the Earth Monarch realm to be able to escape from the hands of Elder Tesso was truly inconceivable. Yes, it's that strange. Elder Tesso was infuriated. He waved his hand to the side and a black beam of light swept out, blasting a large hole in the hard wall. He must have the help of a celestial master, otherwise he would never have been able to escape. Then, what do we do now? They had bitter expressions on their faces. Not only had the pioneering elder been killed, even the divine spirit race had been rescued. Such an important tribute was gone, so they were going to be severely punished. What can we do? Elder Tesso said angrily, he definitely didn't go far. Immediately send out all the clansmen to search. Don't let go of any corner. That brat must have used a treasure to escape. He must still be in our divine domain. Yes, sir. This was the only thing they could do now. They would send out all the evil spirit race to search for the human race and seal off all the exits as fast as possible. If they searched inch by inch, they would definitely be able to find him. In their opinion, Tianyun had used a treasure to escape. However, even a sky sovereign's treasure could not bring someone out of the divine domain. He was definitely still in the divine domain. Immediately after, they mobilized all the evil spirit race and began a large-scale search. Elder Tesso was in no mood at all. He had originally wanted to wait for the domain master to come out of seclusion before offering up this batch of divine spirit race. Who knew that such a thing would happen? Bastard! I want to see who exactly is helping him from behind. Even if it's a sky sovereign, he will not be able to bear the consequences. Elder Tesso flew out and arranged for the evil spirit race to search. At the same time, Tianyun had already escaped. Because the distance of teleportation was greatly increased, he was teleported to the outermost void, and then he replaced the evil spirit puppet as fast as possible. Everything became so perfect. As long as he replaced the evil spirit puppet, no one would suspect him. After all, what Elder Tesso saw was the appearance of a human, not the appearance of the evil spirit puppet, so naturally he was not worried. At most, he would wonder why Tianyun was wandering around here instead of going back to seclusion. I almost died. Fortunately, I have enough crazy points, otherwise, I really can't level up to escape. At that time, he could only try to teleport. If leveling up one level was not enough, then he would level up 2 levels. Now it seems that it was a success, but it cost a lot of crazy points, but at least he can escape. Immediately, he flew to the planet where Ji Shualian and the others were hiding. After arriving, he glanced around and shouted, "Come out, it's me." After a while, Ji Shualian and the others came out one after another. "You are back so soon, is it difficult to rescue them?" Ji Shualian and the others came out one after another, and when they saw Tianyun, they were happy, at least they didn't encounter any trouble. From the time Tianyun left to the time he came back, the total time added up to less than a day. But it was already thrilling enough to break into the planet in one day. "No, you guys come in first, so as not to be seen." Tianyun quickly went over and put them into the evil spirit puppet space. After coming in, when they were wondering why Tianyun came back so quickly, they looked up and saw Elder Gu and the others were also confused, they didn't understand what was going on. Elder Gu. They were all shocked, looking around, aren't these their companions who were captured? Now they were all rescued, including those divine spirit clan who were tortured, all of them were rescued. Shualian? They were also dumbfounded, they were captured before, and now they met again. Big brother Tianyun, you saved them. Ji Shualian turned her head and looked at Tianyun. Didn't I say that I still have some confidence? Now it seems that I did it. Tianyun shrugged, it was a bit thrilling. Chapter 1238. After this mission was completed, a lot of compression value immediately surged in, making Tianyun very satisfied. However, saving them was naturally not for the mission, but because the 3 realms already had the divine spirit race. Therefore, he had to save them. Perhaps he could find the true ancestral land of the divine spirit race. The divine spirit race of the 3 realms was undoubtedly just a descendant, it could not be considered an ancestral land. Thank you, thank you. She sat on the ground, sobbing. Following that, the group of people hugged each other and cried, especially the divine spirit race who were nailed to the wall. They all thought that they were dead for sure, but they did not expect to be saved. Finally, that painful process had ended. Tianyun looked at them and shook his head. This was because their cultivation was too low. The evil spirit race was stronger than them, and the result was that they were occupied. It was that simple. It was just like the 3 realms, they could be easily needed and abused as they pleased. At this moment, a message came from Tianyun's token, all evil spirit race, listen to the order, go out and search for a human or a divine spirit race. Capture anyone suspicious. Those who do not obey will be punished severely. This order was probably passed on to every evil spirit race's token. It seemed like they were going to find suspicious people. Can you find them? Tianyun sneered. As long as he had the evil spirit puppet, no one would be able to find him, especially with his identity as a God's child. While they were reminiscing about the past, many evil spirit race suddenly surged in from outside. When they saw Tianyun below, they quickly descended. Why are you here? These evil spirit race's expressions were serious. It was obvious that they had received orders to take everything seriously. I suddenly had an epiphany, so I cultivated here for a while. What's the matter? Tianyun looked at these evil spirit race. They were all guard type. Then did you see any suspicious people pass by? For example, the divine spirit race or the human race? The evil spirit race asked. I didn't see them. If I saw them, do you think I would still be here and not chase after them? Tianyun smiled. The guards looked at each other and didn't say anything else. They began to search the planet. Even though Tianyun said so, they still had to do their job and search the place thoroughly. Tianyun just sat there and meditated, looking very satisfied. No matter how they racked their brains, they couldn't figure it out. The real murderer was right in front of them. The guard finished his search very quickly. He came to him and said, something big happened in Dark Heart City. Assassins sneaked in. I believe you've already received the news. Please pay more attention to this. I know. If I find anyone suspicious, I'll report it immediately. Tianyun said in a deep voice. The guard nodded and led his clansmen to other places to continue investigating. The entire evil spirit race became lively, all for the sake of finding the assassin and the unknown human race. It's so convenient. They won't even notice us. Ji Tianzi shouted happily. He looked at Tianyun and said with a smile, Big brother Tianyun is still the best. Not only did you save our clansmen, you even made them run around in circles. That's right. I didn't expect you to be rescued so quickly. We thought you couldn't sneak in and had no choice but to come back. Ji Shuilian was pleasantly surprised, and it was an extremely pleasant surprise. She had never been so pleasantly surprised in her life. Elder Gu and the others already understood what happened, and they looked at Tianyun with eyes full of gratitude, but they didn't know what to say. Fortunately, Elder Tesso is in closed-door cultivation. If he had immediately come to support me, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to save everyone. Tianyun shook his head. Fortunately, Elder Tesso was in closed-door cultivation. Because he was cultivating underground, even if he wanted to come up, it would take some time. Originally, there were several layers of protection along the way to prevent enemies from breaking in. Who would have thought that this kind of precaution would become a stumbling block for Elder Tai Sua to go out and support? After Elder Tai Sua went out, Tianyun successfully rescued everyone, and even killed Elder Tai Sua. Little brother, on behalf of the Divine Spirit Clan, I express my heartfelt gratitude to you. After Elder Gu was released from her shackles, she was able to stand up. She walked up to him and bowed deeply. Her cultivation was not weak. She was a divine monarch, but when faced with Tianyun's rescue, she still bowed to express her gratitude. Without Tianyun's help, they would have been finished. Elder Gu, you are too polite. Tianyun smiled and said, Are there any other clansmen who were rescued during the chaos? Our group is all here. If we are not here, we will never be able to return. Elder Gu sighed. The other members of the Divine Spirit Clan felt the same. Their eyes were filled with sorrow, but their hearts were filled with anger. They wanted to take revenge. In that case, I will send you out of here. Where do you plan to go? To Fan Yu or to the Divine Realm? Tianyun planned to send them back. The Divine Realm. The Divine Spirit Clan is in the cold Nether Divine Realm. It is quite far from here. But I will be thick-skinned and ask little brother to send us back. We are in danger now. If you send us back to the God Spirit race, we'll definitely thank you. You'll be our eternal friend. Elder Jiue was extremely grateful, but she also felt ashamed. As an elder, she had to ask outsiders for help, but she could not help. They had been imprisoned for so long, and their strength had been greatly weakened. If they were released, they would be caught immediately. No problem. It is a small matter. Yi Tianyun immediately flew out of the divine realm. He wanted to use the divine realm's passage to leave this area. Because of his identity as an evil spirit puppet, no one from the evil spirit clan came to stop him. At most, they asked if they had seen any suspicious people. Young Master Tianyun, why do you plan to save us? Is it for our martial arts, or for something else? Just tell us, and we will satisfy you. Although the Divine Spirit clan has declined, we still have many treasures. Ji Shuilian thought for a while and finally asked what was on her mind. Actually, I do have some feelings for you. Yi Tianyun did not block his voice and directly told them. The other members of the Divine Spirit clan looked over, but they did not show any disgust. It was only right to repay a debt of gratitude. As long as Yi Tianyun's request was not too excessive, everything was fine. What do you want? Ji Shuilian's eyes lit up. She felt that she had to repay something. Otherwise, she would feel guilty. Actually, there are your descendants in my hometown. Their bloodlines are thinner, but they are also from the Divine Spirit clan. I hope that you can help them awaken their bloodlines, Yi Tianyun said truthfully. That's simple. Ji Shuilian was dumbfounded. Chapter 1239. Yi Tianyun's request was too simple. It should be said that even without Yi Tianyun's request, if they saw their descendants with a slightly thinner bloodline, they would accept them and awaken their bloodlines. No matter what, they would still be their descendants, so there was no difference. It was just that their bloodlines were slightly thinner. The Divine Spirit clan was already extremely rare, and even their descendants were extremely precious. From their point of view, the more the merrier. They couldn't wait to gather all the scattered clansmen in the divine realm. Only then could they quickly grow stronger. It was the same for their scattered descendants. They all wanted to gather together to grow stronger. Isn't this too simple? Even if you didn't request it, we have always wanted to find our clansmen. Ji Shuilian shook her head. This isn't even considered a reward. It's not even close to a reward. Instead, it's us who benefit. Did you misunderstand me? I said that I would help them awaken their bloodlines, but they can't leave my hometown. Of course, if you want to stay in my hometown, I'm more than happy to do so, Yi Tianyun said with a smile. This startled them. At first, they indeed thought that it was to let their clansmen return, but it seemed that wasn't the case. It was to help them awaken their bloodlines. As for their clansmen, they would continue to stay in their hometown. Which region is your hometown? Ji Shuilian didn't rush to refuse. Instead, she asked first. It's in the Fanyu region. I can't enter the Divine Realm region for now. My hometown's overall strength is relatively weak. Coming to the Divine Realm is a dead end. However, I believe that my strength will increase soon enough to reach the level where I can go to the Divine Realm. Yi Tianyun looked at them and raised 3 fingers. I'm not talking about the 1st grade God Realm. I'm talking about killing my way to the 3rd grade God Realm. They were shocked. With just the strength of the Fanyu region, they definitely wouldn't be strong in the Divine Realm. As for jumping from the 1st grade God Realm to the 3rd grade God Realm, it was extremely difficult and would take a long time. Of course, if you can help me awaken the bloodlines of my comrades in my hometown, I believe the progress will be even faster. Yi Tianyun smiled. If you can join my hometown, it will be like adding wings to a tiger. The progress will be even faster. With the help of the Divine Spirit race, how could the 3 realms not fly? especially now that they had mastered even more powerful martial arts and divine seals. They were simply super geniuses in this aspect. If he could join the three realms, it would be like flying. Just the strength of the divine spirit clan itself had already reached the level of second or third grade god realm. Asking them to join Fan Yu's force was simply downgrading their strength. This. Ji Shuilian turned to look at Elder Jiyue. Regardless of whether the divine spirit race was willing to go, Elder Jiyue still had the final say. After all, as an elder, Elder Jiyue naturally had greater decision-making power. We can help your people awaken their power. That's not a problem. As for moving to your place to live, that's actually not impossible. Elder Jiyue said something that shocked even her own people. Moving from the divine domain to Fan Yu was a little unbelievable. They all felt that it was unlikely that they would move to Fan Yu. The difference between the two was too great. Moving to Fan Yu would be equivalent to going backwards. Who would have thought that Elder Jiyue would say that they might move there? Elder Jiyue, please tell us the details. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up, but he wasn't very happy. After all, everything was uncertain. There was no point in being happy. We have to go back and discuss this matter with the other elders. Elder Jiyue didn't say it first. She let Yi Tianyun send them back first. That's fine. Yi Tianyun didn't think much of it. He didn't think that Elder Jiyue was tricking him. After all, this matter was too important. It was impossible for just one elder to decide everything, especially when there were many people who hadn't participated. Let me make one thing clear. Just like Shuilian said, this isn't considered a reward. As for the specifics, we can talk about it when we go back. You spent so much effort to save us. Just this alone isn't enough to repay you. Elder Jiyue shook her head. She also didn't think that this was very reasonable. It seemed that the other party's request was simple, and they could repay it easily. But in reality, it had an impact on their Dao hearts. Every race had different requirements for themselves. They were all races that knew how to repay kindness. If they didn't repay someone of the same level, or someone of a similar level, they would feel uncomfortable and affect their Dao heart. To put it bluntly, it was a bit like being cheap. If it were any other race, they would definitely need a reward. They wouldn't be like them, feeling that the reward wasn't enough and needing more reward. It could only be said that they really repaid a debt of gratitude to the extreme. Yi Tianyun didn't say much and quickly continued to fly them away. When they passed through the God Domain's passage, they even interrogated him. Yi Tianyun said that they were going out to gain experience. Although the interior was extremely chaotic, it didn't mean that they couldn't enter or leave. As long as they were from the same race, there wouldn't be any problems. Thus, he easily slipped out. As for the evil spirit race, they were still in chaos, constantly searching all the areas within their god domain. As for Fan Yu's situation, they completely ignored it. Elder Tesso believed that they wouldn't be able to escape this place immediately, so they searched within their own forces. Moreover, if they really left the god domain, there would be no point in searching for Fan Yu. Fan Yu was much larger than the area here. The evil spirit god domain was in a specific place, while Fan Yu was connected to many areas. There was no way to search at all. This was just like the god domain. With so many god domains connected together, not to mention whether they would attack, just searching them one by one would be enough to kill them. We easily escaped. Let's head to the cold underworld god domain now. Yi Tianyun looked at the scene in front of him and smiled. He quickly flew to the cold underworld god domain. Ji Shuilian and the others were extremely excited. They had easily escaped instead of narrowly escaping death. If not for Yi Tianyun bringing them out, it would have been really dangerous. Under their guidance, Yi Tianyun passed through the god domains and arrived at the cold underworld god domain. The cold underworld god domain was a second-grade god domain. It couldn't be considered a third-grade god domain and could be considered to be between third-grade god domains. Tianyun believed that this cold underworld god domain wasn't their true residence. They were just hiding here. How could they have a fixed residence while being chased by the evil spirit race? Chapter 1240. As for joining a rank 4 god domain, the price would definitely be extremely high. The divine spirit race's bloodline was ranked at the top, so those powerful forces would definitely do everything possible to snatch them away or form a marriage alliance. Under this division, the divine spirit race would quickly be assimilated and would not be able to maintain their pure bloodline. Thus, the powerful forces had weaker authority. On the contrary, the weaker forces would definitely be accepted if they made some requests. This was why Elder Ji said that he could consider it. Tianyun had already guessed most of it. I've arrived at the cold nether god domain. After Tianyun passed through a tunnel, he felt waves of cold enveloping him from all directions. This level of cold chi was something that ordinary cultivators could not live in. One had to be at least a star venerable to be able to fly at will. Unless there was a special place to protect them, those within this cultivation level would immediately be frozen. This area is a bit desolate. Tianyun looked around. The planets were all covered in ice, and some were even bare. It was impossible for life to exist here. This place was filled with water attribute energy, which meant that there would be a water core here. Of course, with the existence of a water core, there would definitely be a faction stationed here. The cold nether god domain was rather desolate, but it did not mean that there were no factions here. After all, to cultivators with a water attribute physique, it was a paradise. It is a bit desolate, but it is relatively safe here. Furthermore, it is a bit remote, so it is not easy to be discovered. Ji Shuilian explained. How were you captured? Tianyun had not asked this question before, and a large number of them had been captured. We were captured on the way. Ji Shuilian shook her head. We split into several groups and headed to the agreed gathering place, but we were intercepted on the way. We had received news that the evil spirit race had already caught up to us, so we could only retreat quickly. Who knew that we would be intercepted? Tianyun narrowed his eyes. This was truly unfortunate. They had been captured by the evil spirit race. Unless the evil spirit race was destroyed, there was no way to resolve this nightmare. The two were like sworn enemies, but the evil spirit race played the role of a pursuer, while they could only play the role of a fugitive. As for the other races, even if they had thoughts, they would not be as terrifying as the evil spirit race. It should be said that at least absorbing the divine spirit race's blood essence would not have such a special effect. This was the main reason. If the other races had such an effect, it would be dangerous. This was similar to the Phoenix race and the other god-beasts races. Their bloodlines were definitely popular and could be absorbed for their own use. However, it was only a small part of it. It was impossible for him to completely change his blood. Tianyun is an exception, he can only reach a higher level by leveling up. If it were any other race, they would never be able to reach this level. After all, no matter what kind of bloodline it would take up a certain proportion. It was impossible to completely replace it. Unless, they could one for their body or 1-2. There's basically no problem. Unless the gathering place is attacked, they won't be evacuated in a short period of time, Ji Shuilian said. Tianyun nodded and said, since we're in this area, let's leave this space to avoid being seen and causing any misunderstandings. All right. Immediately after, Tianyun released them. They had already recovered most of their strength on the way and could already fly at will. After they came out, Tianyun quickly put away the evil spirit puppet and flew with them. Elder Ji flew in front and brought them to the gathering place. Even though they had arrived at the cold nether divine domain, they still had to fly for a long distance. After many turns, they arrived in front of an extremely remote planet. This planet was very inconspicuous, and it could even be said to be a little small. There were some plants scattered on it. With a glance, one could tell if there was anyone on it. It was obvious that there was no one on this planet. However, Elder Ji Yu still brought them down. After looking around, Ji Shuilian's eyes lit up. It's our mark. What mark? Yi Tianyun looked around and couldn't see a single mark. He didn't know what mark Ji Shuilian was talking about. This is it. Ji Shuilian pointed at a small blade of grass on the ground. It looked very inconspicuous, as if it had completely merged with the planet. Is this a mark? Yi Tianyun looked up and down at the small blade of grass. He still couldn't see anything. However, he thought of an idea. He quickly activated the heavenly eye and scanned it. Soon, he could see that there was a faint white dot inside the small blade of grass. It was actually just a small dot, and it couldn't be seen at all. Even though he couldn't detect it with his spiritual sense, he could use the ability of the spirit clan to see a little bit. So it's here. Yi Tianyun deactivated the heavenly eye talent. Only the spirit clan could see this information. Fortunately, he had the heavenly eye talent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to see it. There's no need to look. What you can't see can only be seen by our clansmen. Ji Shuilian didn't think that he could see it clearly. After Elder Ji Yu circled around, the ground soon began to slowly open a door, revealing a passage to the underground. It looked like a casual walk, but in fact, it was the correct switch to open the passage. It wasn't something that could be walked out just by walking randomly. If one took a wrong step, everything would have to start all over again. It would take hundreds or thousands of steps to open the door. It seemed like a lot, but if one grasped the right method and moved fast, it would only take a few seconds. Everyone, hurry up and go in. Elder Ji Yu motioned for them to go in. They nodded and were led down together with Yi Tianyun. After everyone went down, Elder Ji Yu followed them. After she went down, the door quickly closed. There was no trace of it on the surface. Such an inconspicuous planet was their gathering place. Yi Tianyun wasn't surprised that it was built underground. If it was outside, they would be able to see it at a glance. How could it be arranged outside? Therefore, when he saw this planet, he immediately guessed that it was underground. Now, they quickly walked down the passage. After passing through a long corridor, what they saw was not a group of spirit clan members welcoming them back, but a pile of traces of fighting. Chapter 1241. What's going on? Ji Shuilian and the others were stunned. They had thought that they would see familiar faces, but they realized that they had all disappeared. It seemed that an intense battle had taken place, which meant that the seemingly hidden place had been discovered. As far as Yi Tianyun could see, the battle was still relatively fierce, but the divine seal here was very strong. Under the frenzied attack, it was still able to maintain its original state. At most, it was damaged, but it did not cause this place to collapse. He could sense from the aura left behind that there was a Divine Lord level battle. However, even a Divine Lord level battle did not cause any damage to this place, which was enough to show that the Divine Spirit race's attainments in Divine Seals were extremely high. However, based on this situation, the Divine Spirit race that was staying here was probably doomed. It feels like it hasn't been that long since the war. At most, it's been a week or so. Based on this aura, it's still the aura of your sworn enemy, the evil spirit race. Yi Tianyun voiced out his judgment. He could sense the problem from the battle aura left behind here. Yes, it has indeed been around a week. Looks like this place has been discovered, and it was discovered by the evil spirit race. Elder Gus said in a deep voice, but that shouldn't be the case. This place is so hidden, and there are many small planets around it. Furthermore, this place is extremely remote, so it should be very difficult to discover it. But they did discover it, and it was quite sudden. It seems that the situation of the evacuation is quite impressive. At least there are only traces of fighting here, and there are no casualties. Yi Tianyun could see a lot of things from here. There were no casualties, but whether they were caught or not was another matter. I hope so. Elder Jiyu frowned, still not believing that the evil spirit race could discover them. I know that you are very confident in your hidden divine seals, but in my opinion, there are a few possibilities. First, there is a traitor. There is a traitor in your divine spirit race. Tianyun guessed. Impossible. Ji Shuilian immediately retorted, it's impossible for our divine spirit race to have a traitor. Even if there is an internal strife, it's impossible for us to join hands with the evil spirit race. There will never be a good ending if we join hands with the evil spirit race. Moreover, we have always been in harmony and treated fairly. There can't be a traitor. The others nodded heavily. No matter what, they couldn't believe that there was a traitor among their ranks. Since you're so sure, then let me tell you my second guess. That is, just like you, he can easily discover the special marks. Tianyun said in a low voice. This is impossible, how can they see the special marks? Ji Shuilian and the others still chose to deny it, thinking that it was impossible. I'm afraid the abilities of the evil spirit race have already exceeded your understanding. Do you think it won't absorb part of your abilities when it absorbs your essence blood? Forget about the evil spirit race, even I can see it. Tianyun waved his hand, and 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes. He had unlocked the Heavenly Eyes ability. It had always been a pretty good talent, which was the talent of the spirit race. He was now a descendant of the divine spirit race. This is the talent of our God Spirit clan. When they saw it, they immediately understood what was going on. Their innate talents could be gifted, but if they were gifted, they would basically be crippled. Yi Qingxian was an exception. She had a pair of heaven's eyes and gave one to Yi Tianyun. She still had one. That's right, this was gifted to me by my friends in the 3 realms. Maybe the evil spirit race will use this to force you to bestow your innate abilities. That way, you will be able to easily find your marks. Yi Tianyun shook his head. It had to be said that this mark was too easy to break. It might be better if he didn't mark it, but if he didn't mark it, no one would be able to discover it. Gifting talent is not something that can be gifted casually. Especially when the evil spirit race's attributes are at odds with each other, they can't be given away casually. Even if it was any other race, the conditions required would be very harsh. Your success can be considered a miracle. Ji Shuilian shook his head, I don't think the evil spirit race is using this point. I've said it before, the evolution of the evil spirit race is more astonishing than you can imagine. After capturing so many of your companions and absorbing so much blood essence, could it be that there aren't any mutations? You all said that the divine seal that you set up is very well hidden. I also admit that if it was me, I wouldn't be able to find this place. Now that they've succeeded, they've even caught us off guard. I think you should make a good plan for what to do next. Yi Tianyun swept his gaze across the area. It was already empty and there was nothing left. If he walked to the other side from here, he would be able to reach the exit. There would be more than one passage in this secret room. Otherwise, if the evil spirit race was guarding outside, it would be a dead end. That's right, that's indeed the case. I have to admit that the evil spirit race's ability to devour has already made a breakthrough and is even more terrifying than before. Elder Jiyu said in a deep voice, back then, our divine spirit race suppressed them, but now, we have been suppressed by them, and have completely declined. What do you mean? Yi Tianyun narrowed his eyes, as if there was something special in the past. This is a long story. The evil spirit race has always been an evil existence. Basically, wherever they go, they will be completely devoured. Thus, most of the races rose up and resisted to avoid being devoured. Elder Jiyu slowly explained, back then, our divine spirit race was stronger. We brought everyone to suppress them and beat the evil spirit race until they fled. However, we did not completely destroy the evil spirit race. No one expected that the evil spirit race would make a comeback, and they were even stronger than we imagined. At this time, our divine spirit race has already declined. No race can always prosper, including us. Elder Gu let out a deep sigh. No race could always prosper, there really wasn't one. At most, they could last a little longer, but they couldn't always prosper. It could only be said that no race could escape the river of time. In the end, they would still be drowned by this river. This wasn't nonsense. Reality was just that cruel. Unless a monstrous genius appeared every time and was good at managing this power, it would continue to grow stronger. Otherwise, once there was a gap, it would quickly decline. Some would quickly disappear after a few hundred years, while others relied on their ancestors' treasures to last for tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. There were all of these. The divine spirit race's bloodline was powerful, but it was still unable to withstand the long river of time. It was a pity that it had declined. The original leader had been beaten by the evil spirit race. Chapter 1242. The evil spirit race, who had been suppressed to the point of extinction, had suddenly risen. They were even able to suppress many god races and stand above many races. It was truly unbelievable. Tianyun would never believe that they could turn the tables by relying on their own efforts. It was even more impossible to achieve such an achievement in such a short period of time. Thus, he could only guess that they had a backer, such as a super backer of a fourth-grade god realm. It would not be a problem for them to do whatever they wanted in the third-grade god realm. It seemed that the evil spirit race planned to dominate the entire Fan Yu first. They were mainly collecting cores. They had been collecting cores all this time, and devouring other races was just in passing. Could it be that the core has some hidden use? Tianyun frowned. Apart from being able to forge weapons, the core could also help with cultivation. It was undeniable that it was a good thing, but the evil spirit race wanted to snatch all the cores. However, even if something was wrong, he did not know what was wrong. After all, Tianyun did not know what they were thinking. Ji Shualian and the others had heavy hearts. They had thought that they would be able to reunite happily, but it seemed that they would be busy again. The key was their companion's situation. They had no idea what was going on. I wonder what's going on with Elder Gu and the others. Ji Shualian and the others' eyes were filled with worry. How could they not be worried? All the clues had been cut off, and they did not know where they would gather next. The location that they had set before was here. Now that they were not here, it meant that they had lost contact. As for the communication token, it was not omnipotent. After a certain distance, it would not be able to send messages. Most of the time, it would be effective in the same area. If they were further away, it would be more difficult. No, the communication token is useless. Damn it. Ji Tianzi gripped the token in his hand tightly. They had all tried to contact him, but there was no effect at all. This meant that the distance was definitely very far, and they could also be imprisoned. All of these were possible, and they could only hope that it was the former. From the traces of the battle, it seemed that they had escaped. We can only search randomly now and try to search in other god realms. However, they should all be in these free god realms. I just don't know which god realm they are in. Elder Jiue could only think of this stupid method, which was to try to use the token to send a message when she reached the next deity realm. If the transmission was successful, it meant that he was in this area, and it would be much easier to find him. It was indeed stupid, but this was the only thing he could do at the moment. There was no other way. While they were frowning, Tianyun wiped some blood from the corner of the room. This should be the blood of your clansmen. The blood of the Divine Spirit clan was easy to identify. It wasn't dark red, nor was it black. Instead, it was a faint platinum color that gave off a holy luster. Yes, but we don't know whose blood it is. Ji Shualian said worriedly. No matter who it is, I think we'll be able to find it soon. Tianyun smiled and quickly put the blood stains into the evil spirit wheel. After receiving it, the evil spirit wheel began to spin, and a pulling force appeared once again. This kind of thing was really useful. It was definitely a divine tool for finding people. While they were frowning, Tianyun only needed to rely on the slightest trace to find them. Really? Ji Shuilian's eyes lit up. She remembered that Tianyun had been able to help them find people before. It seemed like he could do the same this time. Elder Jiyue and the others looked puzzled. They didn't know what Tianyun meant. Could he find their clansmen with just this blood stain? There's a clue. Tianyun stood up and said with a sharp gaze, "He's hiding here. He hasn't left the divine realm." After saying that, Tianyun flew into the depths. There was a corresponding exit inside. Elder Jiyue and the others were shocked. Why were they still here? They were very puzzled, but they still chose to follow. Tianyun followed the pulling force to the passageway in front of them. He looked around and finally came to a wall. He knocked on it. "It's here. There should be some hidden passageway." They looked at each other. He could find them like this. Elder Jiyue came to the wall and knocked on it. She didn't feel anything strange. "I can't feel it. The one who set up this kind of hidden mechanism is Elder Jiyu. If she didn't tell us in advance, we wouldn't know how to open it." Elder Jiyue shook her head. "In that case, I'll break this wall." Tianyun looked up and down. He activated the appraisal eye to its fullest and scanned the entire place. A moment later, he waved his hand and tapped the wall in a frenzy. With each tap, a faint golden light appeared on the wall. Soon, these golden lights connected together and formed a light array. He found the god seal. They were all stunned. They couldn't see through the hidden god seal, but Tianyun found it. Not only did he find it, but he also found its weakness. After finding it, Tianyun aimed at the center area and punched it hard. Boom! A big hole was punched in the center area. Soon, a passageway appeared in front of them. When they saw this passageway, they looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They didn't expect there to be a hidden passageway here. "Let's go." Tianyun gestured for them to go down and led the way. It seemed that they had made preparations. Through this hidden passageway, they could quickly hide their clansmen. Then, they would create a trail of escape. This way, the evil spirit race would think that they had escaped and would chase after them instead of continuing to search here. As they walked down the stairs, before they reached the bottom, rays of light enveloped them and formed a fatal god seal array that wanted to kill them here. "It's the spirit severing array." Elder Jiyue didn't resist and shouted, "Elder Jiyu, we're back." As soon as she finished speaking, the spirit severing array disappeared. Then, a divine spirit with a frighteningly pale face appeared at the staircase and looked at them. "Elder Jiyue." She was Elder Jiyu, but her injuries seemed to be quite serious. When Elder Jiyue and the others saw Elder Jiyu, they were overjoyed and hurriedly ran down. When Tianyun followed them down, he saw a group of divine spirits with vigilant expressions. There weren't many of them, only a few hundred. Chapter 1243. Looks like they're really all here. Tianyun immediately felt that the evil spirit wheel was too useful. Without it, he really wouldn't have been able to find them. This place was simply too hidden. Any communication token was useless, and a simple investigation would not be able to find them. If they could find them, they wouldn't be hiding here. The more dangerous a place was, the safer it was. After being searched by the evil spirit race once, they definitely wouldn't come again. However, even their own people were on guard against them. Elder Ji, you didn't even know that they were hiding here. That's great, you're all here. We thought you were all captured by the evil spirit race. After Ji Shuilian and the rest came down, their eyes turned red and they all started crying. Their cultivation levels were not low, but they were still very touched by the situation of their clansmen. It was good enough that they were safe. We also thought that you were captured by the evil spirit race. Elder Ji, you and the rest also came over. When they saw that it was their own people, they were also extremely touched and surrounded them. Tianyun couldn't help but sigh when he saw this situation. It seemed that this was the only situation that could make the entire race unite and not scheme against each other. If they were still scheming against each other now, they would really be finished. However, there were indeed such situations. Even if the enemies outside closed in, they would still be scheming against each other to obtain more power and resources. In the end, when the enemies invaded, they were all finished. This kind of thing was not rare in the three realms. This was how an empire or a divine kingdom perished. Even though they knew that there were many enemies outside, they still fought internally. They were simply courting death. Speaking of which, this little brother. Elder Ji looked over and sized up Tianyun. A stranger would always make them vigilant. He's our savior. It's a long story. Then, they started chatting with each other and told each other about their situations. When they heard about Elder Ji and the rest situation, all of them were shocked. They kept looking at Tianyun with gratitude. If it wasn't for Tianyun, they really wouldn't have been able to see Elder Ji. As for Elder Ji's side, it was the same as what they had thought. They were going to hide inside first, and then the elders would face the enemy. After fiercely resisting for a while, he immediately activated his divine seal defense, blocking them outside. At the same time, he pretended to run away and quickly escaped. At the same time, the other elders did indeed lead their clansmen to escape. The number of evil spirit races that came in to attack was not just a little, but quite a few. It could be said that they were working together, even if there were evil spirit races surrounding them from the outside. Of course, the way to escape was not as simple as slipping out of the exit. That would be too low class. They had all carved a teleportation formation inside and escaped through this teleportation formation. This was undoubtedly the safest and fastest method. Thus, there were a few elders who were temporarily not here. Instead, they had all escaped to hide. They would only dare to return after a period of time. If he casually came back, it would be troublesome if the evil spirit race still had an ambush. When they heard that the passage they had set up had been broken, their hearts went cold, thinking that they had been discovered by the evil spirit race. They didn't expect their long-lost clansmen to return, which made them very happy. Where's the patriarch? Why don't I see the patriarch? Ji Shuilian turned her head and looked around, but she did not see the patriarch. The patriarch, he. Elder Ji fell silent for a moment, then said, "Follow me." Before bringing them in, he indicated to his other companions to quickly repair the passage. As it was only a small hole, it was not difficult to repair. Under Elder Ji's lead, they arrived in front of a room. Before they even entered, Tianyun could smell a thick medicinal fragrance wafting from the room. When they walked in, they saw a middle-aged man lying on the bed. His entire body was wrapped in a thick layer of spirit medicine. Other than his nostrils and mouth, the rest of his body was covered. "Father." When Ji Shuilian saw the middle-aged man's situation, she covered her mouth and cried out. She was completely shocked by the scene in front of her. Ji Shuilian pounced on him and knelt beside the bed. She looked at her father with red eyes. The person in front of her, who was wrapped like a dumpling, was Ji Shuilian's father, Ji Fuyun. He was also the current patriarch of the divine spirit race. However, he was heavily injured and was wrapped in a thick layer of spirit medicine. He looked terrible. Ji Fuyun didn't reply at all. He just laid there, clearly unconscious. "Elder Ji, what happened to my father?" Not only Ji Shuilian, but Ji Tianzi also came to the side. However, as a man, Ji Tianzi could only clench his fists at the side, his eyes filled with anger. Needless to say, they knew that it was the evil spirit race's doing, but they did not know the details. In order to cover our escape, the patriarch blocked 3 divine lords outside, causing him to be seriously injured. He has been unconscious ever since. It looks like it will take a long time for him to recover. Elder Ji sighed. At first, We thought that you guys had returned. We didn't expect that it was the evil spirit race that came in. They were actually able to find our hiding spot and even broke our opening method. As it was too sudden, the elders and the patriarch blocked it together. If not for the patriarch, we would have been heavily injured and would not have been able to escape. Tianyun narrowed his eyes. It seemed that the blood outside should be Ji Fuyun's. However, it was just as he had guessed. The evil spirit race could see their marks and attacked fiercely, catching them off guard. After all, they thought that it was their own people who had come down, so they definitely did not have any defenses. Who knew that it would be an expert of the evil spirit race? Although they had blocked it, the patriarch was heavily injured, proving that he had also suffered a fierce attack while covering their escape. Ji Fuyun's cultivation was not bad. He was at the 8th level of Divine Lord, but it was difficult for him to fight against so many people. In the end, he was still heavily injured. It was already not bad that he could successfully escape. Right now, we can only do a simple treatment. If not for the fact that we were afraid of being discovered, we would have gone out to ask for help long ago. Without good healing pills, it will be difficult for the patriarch to recover quickly. Elder Ji sighed, feeling very sad. The divine spirit race focused on divine seals, so they were not that outstanding in terms of alchemy and artifact forging. Especially now that Ji Fuyun's injury wasn't an ordinary one. With their abilities, they couldn't heal him. If you want an alchemist to treat you, I happen to know a thing or two. I wonder if you can let me take a look. Tianyun interrupted. Chapter 1244. Young Master Tianyun, you know alchemy too. Ji Shuilian looked at Tianyun in disbelief. Tianyun was already invincible, and they labeled him as a puppeteer. A puppeteer knew alchemy too. That was impossible. It was already difficult to focus all one's energy on being a puppeteer. Alchemy? He might not even be able to control puppets well. Yes, I know a thing or two. Can I give it a try? Tianyun smiled. It seemed like they all thought that he only knew how to control puppets. This. Ji Shuilian thought for a while and nodded. Young Master Tianyun, please give it a try. Wait. Elder Ji stopped him and didn't dare to let Tianyun try. Clan leader is in a critical situation now and can't move around. Little brother, if you are confident, I will let you try. But if you don't, you will be harming clan leader. Her expression was stern. This was a very serious matter. Ji Fuyun was in a critical situation now and his condition wasn't good. If he was carelessly fed with elixirs or moved around, it would worsen his injuries. She admitted that Tianyun was her savior, but that was a different matter. If something went wrong, it would be very troublesome. Tianyun looked her up and down, then took out an elixir and passed it to her. Your condition is also quite serious. Take this elixir and you will know how capable I am. Elder Ji was stunned. She didn't expect Tianyun to answer her like this. But she didn't hesitate and took the elixir. She wasn't worried that it was a trap. She was also Elder Ji's savior, so she naturally didn't worry. After taking it, her pale face started to recover quickly, and her blood chi was much better than before. You used up a lot of energy and your blood chi is empty. I just gave you a chi replenishing elixir to help you recover a little. But you still need to recuperate. The rest of the elixirs are for you. Tianyun took out a bottle of elixirs and gestured for her to take it. Elder Ji silently retreated to the side after taking him down. With just a few glances, Tianyun was able to tell her condition. He even gave her a pill that was suitable for her condition instead of casually giving her a recovery pill. This proved that he had some ability. Looks like you do have some capabilities. I was too cautious. Please help me. Elder Ji said sincerely. Even though they were god monarchs, they were inferior in this aspect. Naturally, they had to be modest. Ding! Successfully accepted the side quest, help clan leader G detoxify the poison. Completed. Obtained 5 points of craziness and 5 points of compression proficiency. At the same time, obtained 50 points of favorability from the Divine Spirit tribe and a chance to spin the lucky roulette. He was not surprised that a new side mission popped up. It's normal for you to be cautious. Clan leader G's condition is very serious. He's been poisoned. If you forcefully use detoxifying grass to suppress it, the effect won't be obvious. It might even worsen his injuries. Tianyun could tell with a glance that other than being injured, clan leader G was also poisoned. These evil spirit races had come prepared, so it was impossible for them to casually attack. Thus, it was normal for them to have more preparations. It will worsen his injuries. They were all stunned. They only knew basic treatment methods. They didn't know anything that was too serious, so they could only try simple methods. Yes, these detoxifying grass have some effect, but the effect is limited. If you wrap them all up, it will affect clan leader G's own detoxifying ability. Clan leader G's cultivation is not low, and he has a strong physique. Even if it's a shocking poison, he will be able to alleviate it. Your wounds are so serious now, it's simply aggravating the effect. Then, Tianyun came over and took off the thick detoxifying grass. Just as he took it off, black skin was revealed. It seemed like he had been tortured by the poison. Tianyun took out a dagger and lightly slashed it. Following that, poisonous blood sprayed out. When it splattered on the ground, it immediately corroded the hard ground and made sizzling sounds. What a shocking poison. The poison prepared by the evil spirit race is amazing. Tianyun shook his head. If this poison wasn't strong, how could it have poisoned a god monarch? When Ji Shualian and the others saw this, their expressions changed and they felt their hearts ache. If these antidote herbs were to be removed, what would be seen would definitely be a tragic sight. It would be completely unrecognizable. Yes, we don't know what poison it is. If not for clan leader helping us, we elders would have been poisoned. Elder Ji recalled the situation at that time and her face turned pale. They had never seen such a terrifying poison. Young Master Tianyun, can this cure the poison? Ji Shualian asked worriedly. Let me take a look at the situation first. Tianyun squinted his eyes and stared at the pool of poisonous blood. He didn't let clan leader Ji let out blood for fun. Letting out blood to cure the poison wouldn't work at all. He just wanted to see the composition of the poisonous blood and see what kind of terrifying poison it contained. Then, he would be able to cure it. After a moment, Tianyun completely analyzed it and knew what the composition was. As he analyzed it, his expression became more and more solemn. Young Master Tianyun. Ji Shualian had a bad premonition, especially when she saw Tianyun's solemn expression. I know how to cure the poison in general. It has to be said that the poison used by the evil spirit race is not fatal, but it will make people unconscious. At the same time, as time passes, it will gradually disintegrate their cultivation. At that time, they will basically have no fighting strength and will be at their mercy. Tianyun said in a deep voice, if we delay any longer, even if we can cure the poison, our cultivation will be greatly affected. This poison could not be said to be poisonous, because no matter what, it would not die. It would only affect one's cultivation, and at the same time, it would make the poisoned person unconscious. It was impossible for the evil spirit race to kill them. Every single one of them was extremely precious, so the situation of people dying in battle was unlikely to happen. As for whether or not he would die after being captured, that was another matter. Then how do we cure the poison? Their eyes lit up. In just a moment, they knew how to cure the poison. It's not difficult to cure the poison. Let's see if you have the corresponding spirit medicine first. Tianyun asked. Spirit medicine, yes. We still have some spirit medicine, but we don't have much in stock. Elder Ji hurriedly took out his storage ring and handed it over so that Tianyun could see if it was enough. After Tianyun took it and checked it, he was somewhat surprised. "You have quite a lot of stock, it's basically very complete, and you're telling me that you don't have much?" Chapter 12:45. This. I used to have a lot more than this. I've been changing places recently, so I've used up quite a lot of spirit herbs. Elder Ji smiled embarrassedly before his eyes lit up. Does that mean that the antidote spirit herbs you want are all in here? That's right. If even you guys don't have them, then there's no need to mention others. Tianyun glanced at the things in Elder Ji's storage ring. It could be described as explosive. Even though a lot of them had been used up, there were still many spirit herbs inside. It was like a mountain of spirit herbs. Just think about it. If it was said that a lot of them had been used up, how many would there have been when they were at their peak? Without the support of resources, it was absolutely impossible for a race to continue to prosper. After all, no matter how powerful one's talent was, it would be very difficult to break through to a higher level without resources. It would take even more time. Does that mean that we can refine the antidote now? Elder Ji and the rest were delighted. They thought that they would have to go out and search. If they really had to go out and search, they would definitely go out and search immediately. They did not want to see their patriarch continue to suffer. If not for the evil spirit race outside, they would have gone to other god territory factions to ask for help from an alchemist. However, in order to hide, they could only stay in this place. Yes, I'll start refining now. As long as there are corresponding spirit herbs, it's not difficult to detoxify. Immediately after, Tianyun took out many spirit herbs and tossed them into the air. At the same time, he threw out the alchemy furnace and threw all the spirit herbs inside. Previously, he had been refining empty-handed, not to show how high his level was, but because the grade of the alchemy furnace was too low, so he could only choose to refine empty-handed. After throwing them in, he unleashed the sky-burning sacred fire and started to refine them at an extremely fast speed. When they saw the sky-burning sacred fire, they immediately felt relieved. If they did not believe that Tianyun was an alchemist before, they completely believed it now. How could an expert with the sky-burning sacred fire not be an alchemist? If he had the sky-burning sacred fire and was not an alchemist, it would be a waste of resources. Even if he was not an alchemist, he had to at least be a divine creation master. The refining process did not take long, and he soon refined many spirit herbs, filling up bottle after bottle. This kind of medicinal pill was not very high grade, the main difficulty was to find the corresponding antidote. As long as he could find it, even Elder Ji and the others would be able to refine it. After all, it could only be considered a low-grade elixir. Alright, make a few more bottles here. Chief Ji doesn't need to take all of them. Just take it according to the situation. I don't think you need 3 or 4 to completely detoxify the poison. The rest is just in case. If you get poisoned again, just take this. Tianyun passed the pill to Ji Shuilian. After all, clan leader Ji was her father. Thank you, thank you. Ji Shuilian was incomparably grateful. She hurriedly received the elixir and stuffed one of it into her father's mouth. As soon as he stuffed it in, his body started to bleed profusely. Simply letting out the blood wouldn't be enough, but slowly forcing the poison out was a different story. Now, he was continuously forcing the poison out. Black venom flowed out of his body, and soon, the whole bed was dyed black with black liquid. It smelled terrible. However, they didn't care about it. They were all staring at Ji Fuyun's situation, wanting to see the effect. Quick, look. Father, the poison in his body is starting to disappear a little. They could immediately see that the poison in Ji Fuyun's body was starting to fade. It was like the black ink on his body was being diluted bit by bit. If this continued, the poison would soon be completely removed. Tianyun took a look. This was the inevitable result. As long as the right medicine was used, there would definitely be no problem. The effect would definitely be the same as what he expected. Unless it was some quack doctor, those who made the wrong judgment and used the wrong medicine would definitely die. He had the appraisal eye. If he still failed like this, he really didn't know what to say. The effect is more or less like this. After the effect of this antidote disappears, continue to take more antidote pills. If you continue to take more, there will be no problem. Tianyun smiled. Young Master Tianyun, I really don't know how to thank you. When father wakes up, I will definitely repay you. Ji Shuilian was incomparably grateful. It wasn't just her. The other clansmen were also extremely grateful. They didn't even know how to express their gratitude with ordinary words. Not only had he saved them, but he had also saved their chief. Up until now, they had been asking for nothing in return. It was nothing, Tianyun said modestly. Then let's arrange for young Master Tianyun to rest first. When father wakes up, I will tell you, said Ji Shuilian. No, I'm going out for a while. I will come back after a while. Tianyun shook his head. Young Master Tianyun, where are you going? Ji Shuilian's heart tightened. She didn't know where Tianyun was going. They hadn't even repaid him yet. If Tianyun left just like that, they would be too irresponsible. Actually, I'm not going anywhere. I want to find a place to cultivate and break through. I feel that I'm about to break through, so I want to find a hidden place to do so. Tianyun said truthfully. This wasn't a secret, so there was no harm in saying it. He saved the divine spirit race and brought them back. Part of the reason was that he wanted to break through. This time, the harvest in the evil spirit divine realm was huge. He killed so many evil spirit race and obtained a lot of materials and crazy points. It was enough for him to upgrade his divine skills. As long as he breaks through to the level of Lord of Heaven, even if a divine monarch comes, he can easily crush them. Even if it's only at the level of Lord of Heaven, he can still suppress a divine monarch. Because when he broke through to the level of Lord of Heaven, many things were unlocked, such as the new set in the Sin Mall. Once he changed it, crushing everything would not be a problem. So that's how it is. Do you want us to help protect you? Ji Shuilian said. I don't need it, this breakthrough is going to be very powerful, I'm afraid that it will affect you. I'll just find a hidden place to break through. Tianyun rejected their good intentions. This breakthrough is going to be much more powerful than the previous ones. It's useless to protect him. If someone has bad intentions towards him, the first to die will definitely not be him, but the person who interferes with him. Therefore, he intends to break through alone. He just needs to find a hidden place. He doesn't need any protection. He wants to see who will interfere with him. When the time comes, he doesn't mind killing them. Chapter 1246. They were disappointed at Tianyun's refusal. Since he said so, they didn't need to force it. All right then. Ji Shuilian and Elder Ji Yu looked at each other before nodding lightly. This is our special communication token. If we have to move, we'll inform you through this special communication token. If we don't inform you, it means we are still here. They didn't know how long Tianyun would be in seclusion. Anyway, it was better to leave a special communication token so that Tianyun could find them through it after his breakthrough. Sure. Tianyun took the token. He definitely wouldn't leave immediately. He still had to establish a cooperative relationship with them. Naturally, he couldn't leave. However, he was in urgent need of a breakthrough. Otherwise, if one or two divine monarchs came, he could only watch from the side. Previously, when he dealt with a divine monarch expert, he was only at the first level. Moreover, he was only able to kill him when the other party was careless. If a few powerful ones came, he wouldn't be able to deal with them at all. After taking the token, he bid farewell and left. Sister, big brother Tianyun has already left. Don't look anymore. Ji Tianzi teased. I can't move my eyes away. I've been looking at that door. There's clearly no one there. You're courting death. Ji Shuilian blushed. She stretched out her hand and wanted to punch Ji Tianzi. Ji Tianzi dodged to the side. But after dodging, he said solemnly, Sister, although Big Brother Tianyun is very powerful, I can't be willful. There are some things that you can just think about. I know. Ji Shuilian's smile disappeared. Instead, she became solemn. The Divine Spirit clan had to continue reproducing with the same clan to keep their bloodline pure. They couldn't mix. As the daughter of the Divine Spirit clan's patriarch, she couldn't do that. No matter how much she loved Yi Tianyun, she could only choose to give up. She sighed deeply. She shouldered the responsibility of the entire Divine Spirit clan's prosperity. Even if she couldn't become the patriarch, she still shouldered an extremely important responsibility. At the same time, after Yi Tianyun flew away, he quickly found a remote area and prepared to break through. But before that, he needed to do a lot of work. Improve my Dragon God bloodline. Ding, deducting 500 crazy point, successfully upgraded Dragon God bloodline to 9th level, max. The 9th grade Divine Dragon bloodline increases one's strength by 500 times, defense by 500 times, and healing ability by 50 times. After the Dragon God's bloodline reached the 9th grade, it was the maximum level. There was no way for it to go any higher. This was already the limit. There was no notification saying that he could continue to improve, such as changing his grade or something. This was not unexpected. He was very satisfied with the Dragon God's bloodline from the very beginning in Fan Yu to the present situation where the effect was extremely good. Especially now that the data was already dazzling enough. An increase of 500 times was much stronger than those reincarnation-level martial arts. These were the advantages of bloodline power. The stronger the bloodline, the stronger the effect. However, not all bloodline powers could increase one's strength. For example, the Divine Spirit race didn't have such an effect. Their effect was to increase one's innate talent. Unfortunately, he didn't have a bloodline in this area unless he obtained it himself or extracted it. Improve Phoenix bloodline. Ding, deducting 10 crazy point, successfully upgraded Phoenix bloodline to 5th level. Continue to improve. Ding, deducting 50 crazy point, successfully upgraded Phoenix bloodline to 6th level, continue to improve. Ding, deducting 100 crazy point, successfully upgraded, continue to improve. Ding, successfully deducting 500 crazy point, successfully upgraded Phoenix bloodline to 9th level, max. Phoenix bloodline 9th level, increase speed by 300 times, increase fire power by 300 times, increase healing ability by 300 times, and provide a chance to be reborn in fire. Cooldown time is 100 years, the effect is rebirth. As if it didn't cost money, Yi Tianyun crazily upgraded the 2 bloodlines. These 2 bloodlines have always been used by him the most. As for divine skills, they are not used by these 2 bloodlines, mainly in battle. Divine skills were not bad, but most of them were just for supporting purposes. What could truly increase one's combat strength were these bloodlines and whatnot. After upgrading 2 bloodlines in a row, the basic crazy point has been reduced by more than half, basically bottoming out. Fortunately, he killed a lot of evil spirit race before, otherwise he really can't upgrade the 2 bloodlines to the maximum level. The remaining crazy point, he is not in a hurry for the time being, he can use it to upgrade crazy mode. However, crazy mode can't be upgraded for the time being, not because crazy point is not enough, but because his cultivation is not enough. After all, according to 10 billion crazy point, it is almost 1,000 crazy point, with his current wealth, it should not be a problem. He just wants to upgrade, but it doesn't give him a chance to upgrade, he is stuck at this level. As for how strong the cultivation is required, there is no indication. If it could be leveled up, any bloodline would have to stand aside. Crazy mode was the most domineering godly skill. Now it has a 64 times bonus. If he continues to upgrade it, it will become 128 times bonus. At that time, if not me, who else? Now that the upgrade is finished, the only thing missing is a good weapon. Tianyun's eyes flashed. He has been using the Heavenly Divine Spear for a long time. It is really outdated. He can't use his full strength at all. If he wants to use his full strength, he needs at least a higher level. Now he is almost ready to start forging a weapon that truly belongs to him. Immediately, he began to find the materials he needs. A pile of precious materials were taken out by him, ready to forge a heavenly Tao weapon. What kind of weapon should I forge? He looked at the Heavenly Divine Spear in his hand. It is more convenient to use a spear, and immediately decided, then I will forge a divine spear. Without thinking for too long, he immediately took out a furnace and began to throw precious materials into it. Star God Stone, throw in. Star God Sand, throw in. Brilliant Gold Sand, throw in. Every kind of material that can be used to forge a heavenly Tao weapon was thrown in one by one, and at the same time, he began to quench it with burning heaven's sacred fire. It was as if these materials were free, and they kept throwing them in. But these materials are really free. They are all obtained from killing those evil spirit race, so it doesn't matter if he fails. Chapter 1247. On a remote planet, Tianyun kept throwing materials into the furnace and refining them one by one. He wasn't throwing all the materials in, but he had to ensure that they were perfectly fused. Otherwise, the furnace would definitely explode. He just had to throw in a little more materials, and the weight would increase, making the divine spear even heavier. What he needed was a weapon that was domineering and heavy enough. Now that he had upgraded his dragon god bloodline, his strength had increased greatly. Unless it was an extremely heavy item, he could easily pick it up. Still not enough. Continue. Tianyun threw in pile after pile of materials, and the furnace was already filled with a huge ball of liquid. It was mixed with precious materials, and it was constantly being refined in the furnace to remove all the impurities. He only stopped after throwing materials to a certain level. At this moment, there was already a huge ball of liquid inside, and it was several times more than what was used to forge ordinary weapons. If other divine craftsmen were at the side, they would definitely scold Tianyun for being crazy. It was extremely easy for him to fail, and once he failed, all the materials would be wasted. Tianyun wasn't afraid of failure. If he wanted an even more astonishing weapon, he would have to take some risks. Moreover, he wasn't messing around, and everything was within his control. When the refinement was almost done, it started to solidify and take shape. At this moment, the power of the heavenly law descended from the sky and enveloped this area. He was going to drag the power of the heavenly law. If he wanted to make this weapon even more powerful, he would need the power of the heavenly law. If he failed, it wouldn't be a heavenly law weapon anymore, but an explosion. Come down. Tianyun trembled, and he controlled his power to drag the power of the heavenly law down. First, it was 1, then 2. Since he already had experience, it was much easier to drag the power of the heavenly law down. This time, he was going to stuff even more power of the heavenly law into the weapon, and it was going to be much crazier than before. Previously, he was holding back his strength, but this time, he was going all out, and he was going to stuff even more power of the heavenly law. The weapon in the furnace emitted an even more dazzling radiance as the power of the heavenly law was constantly being stuffed in. As they continued to stuff in, the sky began to flash with lightning and rumble with thunder. The heavenly tribulation was about to descend. Treasures that were too heaven-defying would definitely cause a heavenly tribulation to descend. However, Tianyun did not care at all. He continued to stuff in more heavenly energy, wanting to completely strengthen the weapon. Keep coming down. Tianyun stretched out his hand and pulled at the void. The heavenly Tao energy was like ribbons that were being pulled down, being dragged down and fused into the heavenly Tao weapon. Immediately after, an extremely dazzling radiance was released. If the elders of the God Creation Palace were here, they would definitely be shocked by the scene in front of them. Yi Tianyun wasn't just bold, he was courting death. Boom! Finally, the heavenly tribulation began to descend. The densely packed lightning began to strike down on the furnace. He wanted to destroy this heaven-defying treasure so that it wouldn't appear in the world. Get lost! Yi Tianyun waved his hand in the void, and an invisible force was thrown out, bouncing off the lightning that struck down. The treasure was not damaged at all. Although it was bounced off, the heavenly tribulation continued to strike down relentlessly, wanting to destroy the treasure. Yi Tianyun did not mind at all and continued to resist the heavenly lightning. The heavenly tribulation of such a treasure was not like the heavenly tribulation that they had encountered before, which could be easily destroyed. Instead, it had to continue until the treasure was successfully refined. If one really wanted to destroy it, it was not impossible, but there was a price to pay. Yi Tianyun's current cultivation was not strong enough, so he did not dare to do so. He focused all his attention on the weapon. If he lost control even a little, the refinement would fail. As the process continued, the weapon in the furnace gradually coalesced, unaffected by the heavenly tribulation outside. This state lasted for a few days, and it had to be said that the time required was not short. Finally, after a week, his eyes lit up, and he patted the furnace in the void. With a dong, the furnace's lid was lifted. Following that, a golden light shot up into the sky, and at the same time, the figure of a weapon also flew into the void, like a bright meteor, escaping to the side. Trying to escape. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and his figure flashed. A huge shadow of a phoenix appeared behind him. In an instant, he caught up to the weapon and reached out to grab it. Thick dragon scales appeared on his palm, and no matter how the weapon struggled, it could not break free from his violent power. Be quiet. Yi Tianyun's right hand that was holding the weapon suddenly swung, and a golden light was thrown out from the surface of the weapon, which just happened to enter the planet. Boom! This huge planet was split into two by this beam of light. The smooth cross-section made people suck in a breath of cold air. Buzz buzz buzz, the divine spear in his hand trembled, and finally calmed down. At the same time, the heavenly tribulation in the sky quickly disappeared. As long as the weapon was formed, the heavenly tribulation would no longer be a problem. After it calmed down, the divine spear that appeared in his hand looked ordinary on the surface. There were no markings at all, and it looked just like a black iron spear. One could not tell that it was an invincible weapon at all, and it looked more like an ordinary iron pillar. However, with a gentle twist, surging power was infused into the divine spear, and starlight immediately appeared on its surface. Other than a faint green light, there was also a faint blue light. In fact, this meant that the power of the two planets in his body could be completely integrated into this weapon, and it could be used to the extreme. Not bad. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. When he felt the weapon in his hand resonate with him, he felt extremely comfortable. He did not expect to successfully forge a top-grade heavenly path weapon this time. That's right, this was a top-grade heavenly path weapon. If the elders of the Temple of Gods were here, they would definitely be shocked. It had only been a short while, and Yi Tianyun was actually able to forge a top-grade heavenly path weapon. He held the divine spear horizontally in front of him, and after reaching out to touch it, he smiled faintly. It suits my current ability very well. Then, I shall call you the Astral Divine Spear. He had specially forged it according to his ability, and it could guide his power of the stars into it, and then unleash it completely, allowing him to use his power to the extreme. Chapter 1248. 10 times Power God Seal, Carve. 5 times Power God Seal, Carve. Extreme Ice God Seal, Carve. He carved God seals on the spear one by one. Weapons of different grades would have different numbers of God seals. Now, this starry divine spear could be carved with many God seals. The difficulty of carving God seals was no easier than forging weapons. The further he went, the more difficult it became. For example, the first God's seal might have a 100% success rate, but the second God's seal might drop to 80%. The difficulty would increase exponentially. The main thing was that the God's seal on the weapon would repel it. Therefore, it was easy to fail. However, Yi Tianyun used his powerful mind power to carve the corresponding God's seal on the spear. After carving, the originally pitch-black starry divine spear started to have some God's seal marks, but they looked very faint. As long as they were not unleashed, these divine seals would not release any light, causing them to look very ordinary, without any bright spots. Yi Tianyun's starry divine spear looked very ordinary. If it was thrown into a pile of weapons, it would be a very inconspicuous existence. However, this was the feeling that Yi Tianyun wanted. It looked very low-key, but when it really exploded, it would sweep away everything. It was impossible for a superior-grade heavenly Dao weapon to be weak. It's about time. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. He had prepared everything that needed to be prepared. If this still could not pass the heavenly tribulation, then there was no other way. Then, he looked up at the sky, his eyes filled with boundless starlight. Time to break through to the Lord of Heaven. Ding! Beginning to break through to the Lord of Heaven, progress at 1%, boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, a huge whirlpool appeared in the void, spinning rapidly in the void. The surrounding energy was sucked into it, and at the same time, it grew bigger and bigger. Thick tribulation lightning surged wildly in it, and terrifying tribulation fire spun rapidly in it. It was no different from the first heavenly tribulation. It still had tribulation lightning and tribulation fire, but just these two types of tribulation lightning were already incredibly powerful. A series of loud sounds rang out in all directions. This was not a sound at all, but a wave of lightning energy that spread out in all directions. It was like a dense net of light that enveloped the entire space. This net of light was covered by rings of tribulation fire. It looked like a huge net of fire that was woven in the air. The commotion began to spread in all directions. Even the cold nether domain was alarmed. Every cultivator raised their heads to look at the sky. They felt a terrifying power enveloping their heads. What's going on? Has a treasure appeared? All of them looked up at the sky and felt an extremely terrifying power spreading in the sky. This power even spread to other divine domains, affecting a larger area. What a powerful force! It's much stronger than the heavenly tribulation that the Lord of the 10th refinement experienced. Yi Tianyun felt his scalp go numb. However, this scene was not an illusion from a dream. The energy in the scene was much stronger than this. The energy in front of him was at most at the 5th level of the Lord of Heaven. It was much weaker than a divine Lord. Boom! He did not have much time to think. The dense net of light quickly enveloped him. There were no blind spots. It was like a dense net that wrapped around Yi Tianyun, trying to capture him. However, if he was really wrapped up, he would not be captured. He would be burned to ashes. If this is all you have, then you are too weak. Yi Tianyun held the star divine spear in his hand. He did not use too much power. He swept the spear in a fan shape and a spear light swept out. Wherever it went, the void was cut in half. This included the light net that was wrapped around him. It was easily cut in half by his spear light. Such a dense light net was swept away by a spear light. It was not difficult at all. After the light net disappeared, the heavenly tribulation began to emit waves of energy. The tribulation cloud expanded again. Halos were released from the tribulation cloud. First, it was red, then blue, then green, then yellow, and finally gold. It was the power of the 5 elements. The power of the 5 elements quickly merged and formed 5 extreme light pillars. Before long, the light pillars pierced through and formed a dense rain of swords. There were dense light pillars as far as the eye could see. Although there were gaps, Yi Tianyun did not think that he could escape through them. This was because there was an energy connection between the light pillars. It was an invisible energy that was invisible to the naked eye. If he passed through it casually, he would definitely be the one to die. The second heavenly tribulation. Its power has increased to the peak of the Lord of Heaven. This change made him feel speechless. The improvement was a bit too fast. From the previous 5 levels of the Lord of Heaven to the peak of the Lord of Heaven, it was simply a death sentence for him. He had not broken through to the Lord of Heaven, but he had to face the peak of the Lord of Heaven. Was this the power suppression that a Lord of the 10 refinements earth should receive? Dragon God Bloodline, open. Yi Tianyun's eyes turned red. In an instant, his whole body was covered with thick dragon scales. He seemed to have turned into a dragon. The thick dragon scales looked indestructible and strong enough to resist all kinds of damage. The key was that his power had increased by 500 times in an instant. The star god's spear in his hand was immediately driven by the red light. At the same time, the energy in the star god's spear was activated. A red dragon pattern appeared on the spear. Open. Yi Tianyun waved the star god's spear and swept it out. Wherever it went, the space collapsed, including the 5 elements light pillars. With a sweep, they all turned into colorful light spots and drifted around. However, it did not end so quickly this time. The power of the 5 elements kept surging over. After sweeping one wave, another wave came. Yi Tianyun stood in place and kept resisting the 5 elements light pillars. After the power of the 5 elements spread out, it was no longer limited to the cold underworld realm. It had spread to other celestial realms. A group of cultivators was immediately alarmed by this feeling. Due to their curiosity, those with slightly higher cultivation flew over to take a look. What's going on? The change in the world seems to be a special power of the 5 elements. It is spreading in the air. Is someone undergoing a tribulation? Impossible. How can a tribulation have such a shocking range? There must be some special treasure. Let's hurry over and take a look, in case it is snatched by other cultivators. Chapter 1249. The power of Yi Tianyun's heaven's calamity continued to spread, affecting even more celestial domains. As a result, every cultivator thought that a rare treasure had appeared. However, the power of the heaven's calamity was not limited to the place where he was undergoing the heaven's calamity. Instead, it continued to spread. Hence, it would take some effort for them to find Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun did not have the energy to pay attention to this. Instead, he focused all his attention on defending against the power of the 5 elements. The power of the 5 elements began to fuse and attack again and again. The power increased exponentially, becoming stronger and stronger. However, there was no power that could block one of his spears. If there was, then it would be 2 spears. The rampaging power destroyed the power of the 5 elements. Although it was easy, he was still surprised. After all, the power had increased by a lot. If he did not increase his strength, he would have been killed here. Once the heaven's calamity began, it would not end unless he died. Otherwise, it would continue. No matter how he tried to escape, teleport, or use the teleportation god's stone, it would be pointless. The heaven's calamity would lock him in place. No matter where he escaped to, it would be quickly pursued. This was the power of the heavenly Tao. It enveloped everything. What power! Luckily, I had a breakthrough. Otherwise, I would not have been able to last this round. Yi Tianyun's heart sank. After the power of the 5 elements fused, its power was no longer limited to the peak power of the Lord of Heaven. It was vaguely at the God-Lord level. Although he had defeated a God-Lord level expert before, this was a God-Lord level attack. He could not disperse the heaven's calamity. That was the most terrifying part. This was a test of his endurance. If he ran out of energy, he would be finished. Of course, he did not need to worry about this. He had already prepared many recovery elixirs. He did not need to worry about this. Fortunately, the power of the 5 elements did not last for too long. After a full day, all the 5 elements' light pillars in the sky disappeared. Everything disappeared without a trace, as if it had never happened. However, the planets around Tianyun had long been destroyed. Not even dust could be found, let alone a small piece of rock. These were all caused by the power of the 5 elements. If the tribulation happened in a random planet region, that planet region would probably be blasted into powder. Therefore, the tribulations would often be carried out in remote places. There were also those who underwent tribulations nearby, destroying the surrounding planets and killing many cultivators. This kind of thing was not uncommon. After all, many cultivators were extremely selfish and did whatever they wanted. In their eyes, cultivators with low cultivation were just a bunch of ants. So what if they died? There were so many of them anyway. Tianyun knew this would happen, so he came to a remote place to undergo his tribulation. At the same time, he also wanted to avoid being disturbed by others. However, according to the current situation, it would probably attract a lot of cultivators to watch. This scene was really too exaggerated. He had never seen such an exaggerated heavenly tribulation. It was as if it covered the entire divine realm, causing the winds and clouds to change. I have passed the test for the 5 elemental energies, but I wonder what else is there. Before he finished his sentence, the heavenly tribulation began to change. It turned into yin and yang and spun in the air. The surrounding pressure suddenly increased by more than 100 times. The power of yin and yang. Tianyun felt a terrifying pressure under his feet. When he looked down, he realized that there was a yin-yang array pressing down on his feet. Be it above his head, around him, or beneath his feet, there was a yin-yang array pressing down on him. Almost instantly, he was trapped inside, with no way to escape. However, it was not that he could not escape. With a shift, he might be able to shift out of this place. However, this was not a battle, but a tribulation transcendence. There was no point in escaping during a tribulation transcendence. Therefore, he could only endure it and wait to pass this round. Then, it would be over. As the yin-yang array pressed down on him, Tianyun felt the pressure increasing. It increased from 100 times to a few hundred times, and this number was constantly increasing. There were no violent attacks. It just relied on this pressure to press down on him from all directions, trying to flatten him into a meat patty. This pressure has already reached the 2nd or 3rd level of God Monarch. Tianyun felt that his body was about to be flattened. The increasing pressure wanted to flatten him into a meat patty. No wonder it was rare to see 10 Earth monarchs breaking through to the Lord of Heaven. Under such a situation, how could he persist? Even if he raised his dragon god bloodline to the maximum level, he still felt that it was extremely strenuous. Furthermore, this was not the limit. As he got closer, the pressure might increase by 1,000 times. Moreover, this was not the scene in the dream realm. This meant that after passing this round, there was still the next round of tests. Finally, the terrifying yin-yang array pressed down on him. Tianyun could only use his hands to block the incoming yin-yang array. The astonishing pressure squeezed in bit by bit. Tianyun continuously pushed out with his hands and legs to prevent the yin-yang array from squeezing in. "Open for me!" Tianyun roared. His dragon god bloodline burst forth. A dazzling red light soared into the sky. Under his ferocious push, the yin-yang array was pushed out by half a meter. However, this was not the end. The yin-yang array continued to press over. It did not disappear because of this. Not only was the yin-yang array pressuring, but its defense was also extremely shocking. How could it be destroyed by this push? Right now, he could only persevere until this round was over. At the same time, the numbers in his head kept jumping. He knew that the tribulation was only halfway through. Advancement progress, 51%, 52%, he increased bit by bit. As time passed, it took a long time. He was no longer like before, jumping several levels consecutively. He had to undergo tribulation to increase his cultivation. Following that, under the yin-yang array, he was continuously pressed down. The dragon scales on his body started to shatter. Blood continuously dripped from his wounds. He looked like a bloody man. Yi Tianyun could only persevere. At the same time, his surging dragon god bloodline started to heal his injuries at an extremely fast speed. He could still persevere in this state. This heavenly tribulation can't stop me. Yi Tianyun's eyes were filled with determination. He was like an imposing giant propping up this world. It was as if he was splitting the heavens and earth apart, forcefully holding up a world. Chapter 1250. Yi Tianyun had been enduring the pressure of the terrifying yin and yang force. It pressed down on him from all directions, making it hard for him to move. He could only hold his palms and push away the pressure from all directions. In this state, the dragon scales on his body healed after being broken, repeating the process over and over again. The pressure was so strong that the dragon scales on his body were crushed into powder. Fortunately, he had a heaven-defying defense. Otherwise, it would have been hard for him to resist. Soon, when the process reached 80%, the yin and yang force pressing down on him suddenly disappeared. However, the tribulation cloud above his head did not disappear. Instead, it continued to spread. This time, the heavenly tribulation did not attack immediately. Instead, layers of tribulation clouds stacked on top of each other. First, it was 1 layer, then 2 layers, then 3 layers. At the same time, the heavenly tribulation no longer affected the cold underworld realm, but many other god realms. The sky was covered by the tribulation cloud, covering so many god realms. The heavenly spring god realm felt it. They all saw the layers of tribulation clouds stacking up in the sky. What's going on? Who's undergoing tribulation? But it doesn't make sense. Even an Earth Lord's tribulation can't cover such a large area. Elder Go Huang and the others came out of the Elder's Hall. When they saw the tribulation cloud above their heads, they were all shocked. They had never seen a tribulation cloud that covered such a large area, and it was stacked up in layers. Usually, only an Earth Lord's tribulation would have layers of tribulation clouds stacking up. The number of Earth Refinement Realm Lords would depend on the number of layers. For example, when a 5th Refinement Realm Lord broke through to the Lord of Heaven, there would be 5 layers of tribulation cloud. If there was a 6th Refinement Realm Lord, there would be 6 layers, and so on. At the same time, even the evil spirit realm saw this scene. When Elder Tesso and the others saw this scene, they frowned and quickly searched around, but did not find anyone undergoing tribulation. What's going on? Which cultivator has such a wide coverage of tribulation cloud? Elder Tesso and the others frowned in disbelief. The effect of the evil spirit race's tribulation was completely different from this. Naturally, it would immediately be judged as a cultivator's tribulation. It was precisely because it covered such a large area that all of them were puzzled. They didn't know exactly who was undergoing the tribulation, nor did they know which area it was. The cultivators, who had originally thought that some kind of rare treasure had appeared, stopped one by one and did not continue to search for it. At first, he thought it was a rare treasure. When he saw the layers of tribulation clouds superimposed, he knew it was a tribulation transcendence. Damn it, I thought it would be some rare treasure. Who knew it would be a tribulation? That's right, what a scam. He had run so far for nothing, so it turned out that he was undergoing a tribulation. How could there be such a huge heavenly tribulation? It only covers a wider area. It's not a heavenly tribulation, but an earthly monarch heavenly tribulation. There's nothing much to see. They all returned helplessly. After all, there was really nothing to see here. They had seen most of the earthly monarch heavenly tribulations. There was nothing new, especially in the 2nd grade god domain area. They had even seen many 1st grade god domains, let alone 2nd grade god domains. Guess, how many earthly monarchs do you think this guy has? I guess it's at most 7 or 8 earthly monarchs. Anyway, that's about it. Although I don't know why it's so fierce, it's about it. I suspect it's a 9 refinement earth monarch. If it's not a 9 refinement earth monarch, how could such a wide heavenly tribulation appear? They all nodded their heads. They all thought that it would be a 9 refinement earth monarch. If it wasn't a 9 refinement earth monarch, then there really wasn't any level of earthly monarch that could reach such a wide heavenly tribulation. Moreover, they had basically never seen a 9 refinement earth monarch before, so they could only subconsciously think so. As time passed, the layers of heavenly tribulation superimposed. Soon, it reached the 8th layer, followed by the 9th layer. Ha, I knew it. Only a 9 refinement earth monarch can have such an effect. 10th layer. Their eyes widened as they saw the 10th layer of heavenly tribulation on top of the 9th layer. The 10 layers of tribulation cloud were all stunned, including the evil spirit race's side. When they saw this situation, they all wondered if they had seen wrongly. No, it can't be, 10 layers of tribulation cloud? Elder Go Huang hurriedly shouted, hurry up and come over to look at the tribulation cloud, come out quickly. What's there to see? Isn't it just a tribulation cloud? Which brat actually dares to transcend the tribulation nearby? After he finishes transcending the tribulation, drag him over and beat him up. After the other elders came out, when they raised their heads to look at the heavenly tribulation in the sky, they all rubbed their eyes in doubt. They were all dumbfounded. It wasn't just these elders, even Elder Tesso and the others were stunned. The 10th layer of tribulation cloud meant that the 10 refinement earth monarch had broken through to the Lord of Heaven. But there was a 10 refinement earth monarch? This was completely impossible. They had never heard of the 10 refinement earth monarch. However, it was happening right in front of them now. There really were 10 layers of tribulation cloud, not one more, not one less. At the same time, the divine spirit race also sensed the situation here and came out of the planet. When they saw the situation in the sky, they were all stunned. 10 layers of tribulation cloud, 10 refinement earth monarch. This is impossible, I've never heard of the 10 refinement earth monarch. Elder Gu and the others were shocked. They were very sensitive to energy fluctuations, so they all came out from below. Who knew that they would see such a shocking scene when they came out? 10 layers of tribulation cloud. Tribulation cloud, transcending the tribulation. Could it be young Master Tianyun? Ji Shuilian immediately thought of Yi Tianyun. After all, Yi Tianyun had said that he was going to transcend the tribulation. No way, could it really be him? Elder Gu and the others were shocked, but no one dared to make a careless judgment. After all, this was too exaggerated. Who knew if Yi Tianyun was transcending the tribulation normally? However, when combined with what Yi Tianyun had said before he left, they couldn't help but believe half of it. He didn't need them to protect him. Based on the situation, he really didn't need them to protect him. Most of the divine domains that were covered by the tribulation cloud were shaken. The tribulation cloud didn't cover all the regions, but the area it covered was shocking enough. Everyone was guessing who this guy was. He had actually triggered the 10 refinement heavenly tribulation, which overturned everyone's understanding. While everyone was still in shock, Yi Tianyun was faced with the scene from the dream. Countless divine lightning bolts descended from the sky, as if they had turned into a cage made of divine lightning, sealing all the regions. Each divine lightning bolt fell continuously, maintaining the appearance of falling. The power of each divine lightning bolt was far greater than the previous power. Chapter 1251. Apart from the dense divine lightning, the divine lightning that fell rapidly gathered and formed a huge divine lightning phantom, as though a thunder god had descended. However, after this thunder god descended, it did not speak and only stared at him. Although it did not attack, its terrifying power had already covered the entire area. This scene is the aftermath of that dream. Yi Tianyun felt his scalp go numb. This Thunder God's overall combat power had already reached the level of a God Monarch level 6. A God Monarch level 6 was actually not very heaven-defying, but for a 10 refinement Earth Lord, it was quite heaven-defying. Directly crossing two major realms, one was the Lord of Heaven, one was the God Monarch realm, adding up to 16 levels. Crossing so many realms, the difficulty was simply insane. This was the test for a 10 refinement Earth Lord to break through to the Lord of Heaven. This was a bit too difficult. Even if it was the Lord of Heaven, it would be difficult to resist. After all, a Lord of Heaven was also like an ant when facing a God Monarch. Right now, an Earth Lord was even more like an ant when facing a God Monarch. The two were not on the same level. This was simply like a heavenly tribulation that completely killed the person undergoing the tribulation. It would not allow a 10 refinement Earth Lord to exist in this world, let alone pass the tribulation successfully. Does a 10 refinement Earth Lord need to pass such a terrifying heavenly tribulation to break through to the Lord of Heaven? Yi Tianyun's heart sank. Could it be that a 10 refinement Earth Lord is really not allowed to exist? If that is the case, then even if it is the heavens, I will break it. He gripped the star god's spear in his hand tightly, the power of the two planets in his body surging wildly. The two kept colliding, continuously producing more energy, ready to explode at any time. Kaboom! The huge thunder god turned its head and looked at him. Its hand grabbed at the void, and a lightning spear appeared in its hand. It aimed at Yi Tianyun and threw the spear. Shwa! It instantly appeared in front of him. The speed was really too fast. They were clearly separated by 100 miles, but in less than a breath's time, or even less than half a breath's time, this bolt of lightning had already arrived in front of him, aiming at his head. If hit, his head would be blown away. A casual toss had already displayed the heaven-defying explosive power of the man. Phoenix bloodline, open. The shadow of a phoenix appeared in Yi Tianyun's eyes. He shifted his body to the side and increased his speed by 300 times, but he could only barely dodge it. Although he avoided a fatal blow, the lightning still touched his body, and his body was instantly scorched. However, with the dragon god's bloodline and the phoenix's bloodline's frenzied regenerative abilities, it quickly regained its original color. Both of his bloodlines had powerful self-healing abilities, which allowed him to recover in the shortest amount of time possible. The Dragon God bloodline and the Phoenix bloodline weren't ranked in the top 10, but their rankings weren't low. They were both close to the top 10. The bloodline was, from the bloodline, which it was it bloodline. This ranking was based on comprehensive talent, meaning that it could provide more powerful talent. After all, increasing strength and speed was not as precious as making rapid breakthroughs in cultivation. Increasing one's strength by tens or hundreds of times seemed very powerful. If the opponent's talent allowed him to break through several levels in a short period of time, then this increase would not have any advantage. After all, breaking through 1 or 2 levels could increase one's strength by more than 100 times. Cultivation was the real key. The ranking was basically based on talent. The Divine Dragon bloodline and Phoenix bloodline did not have much of an enhancement in this aspect. They only enhanced speed and strength, which was why they were ranked lower. For Yi Tianyun, this was very useful. One could increase speed, the other could increase strength. When they were combined, it could reach a very perfect state. Boom! Thunder God did not stop attacking. He flicked his hands, and another 2 lightning bolts shot out from his hands, piercing towards Yi Futian. The power did not change, but even so, it was enough to make Yi Tianyun suffer. Yi Tianyun's figure flashed, and he used his fastest speed to dodge Thunder God's attack. After finding a place to dodge, he easily dodged the attack. This time, he was unharmed. This was the credit of speed. If it was any other Earth Monarch, they would have turned into charcoal. After dodging, he quickly widened the distance and did not go close to Thunder God to fight. He only needed to stall for time. He did not need to kill Thunder God. No matter what, Thunder God was a level 7 God Monarch. Even if he relied on crazy damage, he would not be able to defeat Thunder God. The gap was too big. How was he going to fight? Therefore, he only needed to dodge. He did not need to care about anything else. If I attack like this, transcending the tribulation won't be a problem. Tianyun was very confident. After improving his phoenix bloodline, his speed was very shocking. Fortunately, he improved, or else it would be troublesome. When he thought that everything would be so easy, he looked up and found that Thunder God had disappeared. Such a gigantic Thunder God had disappeared without a trace, just like that. Swish! He felt a sense of impending death coming from behind him. Death was actually so close. Puchi! A bolt of lightning penetrated his body. He did not even have the chance to teleport to escape. The thick bolt of lightning penetrated his body and nailed him in the void. There was nothing in the void, but this extremely sharp bolt of lightning was able to nail him in the void. The thick lightning continued to burn his body. Whatever Dragon God bloodline armor, it was completely useless. These thick dragon scales were like paper paste. One poke and they would break. Tianyun instantly felt his mind go blank. The feeling of death quickly spread throughout his body. I can't die yet. He thought of his family in the three realms, his children, and Shi Shuayun. His gaze, which was originally a little dispirited, instantly became focused. Blaze! Flames shot out from the wound and melted the thick lightning. Following that, his whole body was enveloped in flames. The Phoenix bloodline's rebirth from the ashes had been activated. In the blink of an eye, he was enveloped in flames. In the next moment, his body had already healed rapidly. There was nothing wrong with his body. In fact, his condition was even better than before. His entire condition had been greatly improved. The speed had reached the effect of 400 times. This was the temporary increase in speed after being reborn from the ashes. Chapter 1252. As expected, it's hard to make up for the difference in cultivation level. I can only close the gap slightly. Tianyun's heart sank. 300 times sounded terrifying. In reality, it was indeed terrifying. But that was when the difference in cultivation level wasn't that big. If the difference was too big, it would be useless and he would be crushed. For example, if his speed was 5 points, 300 times would be 1,500 points. But he was a God Lord level 7 cultivator. His speed was 2,000 to 3,000 points. How could he be faster than his opponent? But now, he could only close the gap so that he wouldn't be killed instantly. However, he was still instantly killed. He could be considered to have died once. The effect of rising from the ashes disappeared. The cooldown time was quite long. Even if it could be cooled down, it would consume a lot of cooling god stones. When Thunder God saw that he was not dead, he quickly sprinted over, brandishing the lightning in his hand to stab down. It didn't have any fancy moves. It just charged over and stabbed down. It was that simple. But it was that simple yet incomparably terrifying. It displayed speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness to the fullest. Just these simple moves were enough to kill him. He thought that Thunder God wouldn't do anything and just attack from afar. Who would have thought that it would just charge over and attack? It meant that he had to survive a God Lord level 7 super expert. It's only 85% now. There's still 15% to go. Tianyun narrowed his eyes. It seemed like he still had a long way to go. The difficulty of dodging an attack from a God Lord level 7 expert was terrifying. In terms of escaping, there was no way he could escape. His opponent's speed was a notch faster than his. Even with the buff from rising from the ashes, he was still a notch behind. Swoosh, Thunder God turned into a bolt of lightning and charged over. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of him again. Tianyun didn't dodge this time, his eyes burst with dazzling light. Crazy damage mode, activate. Twin planets force, activate. Sky tremor divine art, activate. He activated all his abilities. As long as it could be stacked on his body, he activated it. His combat power increased exponentially. 5 million star power. 6 million star power. 10 million star power. 20 million star power points. 30 million star power points. 56 million points of star power. After all of them were stacked together, it exploded to 56 million points of star power. This was not only the stacking of the bloodline, but also the power of the weapon. The starry divine spear in his hand emitted an extremely dazzling light. He threw it out violently, drawing a dazzling moon in the void sky. Boom! The ferocious attack smashed down fiercely, colliding with the pouncing thunder god. The strongest attack was the best defense. He no longer continued to run, but directly attacked fiercely. When the two extreme powers collided, Tianyun was blown away by the violent power. Countless lightning bolts flowed along the starry divine spear and charred his arm black. A smell of charcoal floated in the air. Such powerful strength. Tianyun's heart skipped a beat. The power was too strong. It even contained the violent power of lightning. If he were to fight it head-on, he would be the first to be burnt. The appraisal I continued to analyze. At the moment, Thunder God's combat power had soared to over 70 million points of star power. With his 56 million points of star power, it was impossible for him to fight it head-on. Swoosh! The Thunder God's pale blue figure in the air distorted once more. He held the lightning in his hand and continued to stab forward. As long as Tianyun was alive, it would not stop. Again. Tianyun shouted. The starry divine spear in his hand suddenly flashed and the divine inscriptions on it were activated one by one. Strength seal, activate. Speed seal, activate. Damage seal, activate. Ice seal, activate. He activated the 4 divine seals one by one. The divine seals on the pitch-black starry divine spear shone brightly. The divine spear was no longer as simple as before. It was a real starry divine spear. Spots of starlight gathered on it, as if he was holding a galaxy in his hand. Vastness of stars, galaxy snowfall. Apart from activating the power of the divine seal, he also activated the divine art given to him by the vast heavenly Lord. This time, he was truly at his best. His combat power soared again under the superposition. 60 million points of star power. 63 million points of star power. 68 million points of star power. 73 million points of star power. 10 million points of star power filled the gap between the two of them. But at the same time, blood was spurting out of his body. He had overdrawn his body. Even though his dragon god bloodline was at the maximum level, it was still a bit too much. If it weren't for his dragon god bloodline, he wouldn't have been able to reach this level. Even the heavens can't stop me. Tianyun roared and swung the star divine spear in his hand. Countless galaxy lights swept out and collided with the thunder god. Boom, boom, boom. The violent shockwaves of the explosion spread in all directions. The rocks and planets that came into contact with the shockwaves were annihilated. The power of the collision was too terrifying. It was comparable to a battle between divine lords. Moreover, this thunder god was stronger than an ordinary god monarch level 7 god monarch. Then, a figure was sent flying. It wasn't Thunder God, but Tianyun. The dragon scales on his body were blown away. There wasn't a single piece of flesh on his body that wasn't damaged. Fortunately, he had a strong defense. Otherwise, it wouldn't just be the surface of his body that was blown away, but his entire body. Now, he relied on the 2 bloodlines to recover from his injuries. On the other hand, Thor's body had a huge hole blasted open under his violent power. But it was meaningless. Soon, the hole was filled by the power of thunder and lightning. The injured body was restored to its original state without a trace. Thunder God wasn't a living being. It was an energy body formed by the power of thunder and lightning. No matter what kind of attack it was, as long as it was in this world, it could recover quickly. At the end of the day, it was basically impossible for him to kill the Thunder God during this period of time. No matter how serious the injury was, it could be healed. If it was destroyed, another one would be formed. There were two ways to end this completely. The first was to wait for the other party to disappear. The second was to destroy this tribulation cloud. Chapter 1253. Under the eruption of all its power, Thunder God was only missing a small hole, which was quickly healed. It was much faster than Yi Tianyun's recovery. Of course, their bodies were not on the same level. The Thunder God was an energy body, while Yi Tianyun was a physical body. Naturally, his recovery would not be as fast. But compared to the others, it was much faster. With the help of the double bloodline, not only did the bleeding stop, but his flesh was also recovering. It would take some time for him to fully recover. He's too strong. Even with all my power, I can barely fight him to a draw. Yi Tianyun held the starry divine spear in his hand. The light of the divine seal kept flashing on it. He was ready to fight again. He had no choice but to give it his all. Kaboom! The Thunder God cut through the void and continued to strike. As long as it was not over, everything would continue. Good, again. Yi Tianyun's eyes were filled with determination. He swung the starry divine spear in his hand. The entire starry divine spear gave off a dazzling light. It was not inferior to the sacred lightning that kept falling from all directions. Boom, boom, boom. The two collided again. The space first collapsed, and then was annihilated. In the end, Yi Tianyun was bounced back. There was another big hole in the Thunder God. Huff, 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 Yi Tianyun quickly stuffed a handful of medicinal pills into his mouth to replenish his energy, and at the same time, his body is also constantly recovering. If the recovery was too slow, he would replace the longevity suit to speed it up. At this time, he noticed that the bigger the wound, the longer it would take for the Thunder God to recover. Only when the Thunder God was fully recovered would it move to attack. That meant he would have a chance to catch his breath. It seems that the greater the damage, the more time the Thunder God will have to recover before it can attack. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. If the Thunder God kept attacking, he would definitely go crazy. But it was different now. As long as the damage was enough, the Thunder God's attack would slow down and he could buy some time. At this time, it was better to slow down. A little slower would be enough for him to rest for a while. However, if this went on, it would still be a little difficult for him to endure. It would be great if he could recover faster. Right now, he didn't need a particularly strong attack power. What he needed was a stronger recovery ability. An even stronger healing ability. That's right, I'll draw the longevity set. Now, all he needed to do was fill up the longevity equipment set and he would be able to increase the healing effect by a lot. He didn't waste any time and immediately activated the lottery roulette. The huge lottery roulette started spinning in the air. At the same time, he activated his lucky aura and chanted in his heart, "Quick, quick, quick, give me the longevity equipment set." Right now, his longevity equipment set only had the necklace and the ring, but they already provided him with tens of times the healing power. If he could get a complete set, he would definitely be able to fly. Especially now that Thor was still recovering, he had the time to draw a prize. Soon, the wheel stopped, and the needle pointed at the accessory column, which meant that he had won an accessory. Very good. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up, and immediately a jade box fell from the sky. After opening it, what appeared in front of him was the longevity bracelet. Longevity bracelet increases healing power by 80 times. At the same time, increases would element attack power by 20 times. That's great. Tianyun was overjoyed. He really got it. With so many character points and super aura, how could it be bad? He prayed that he would be able to get it. Again. Tianyun continued to draw. He can also wear the longevity ring, which is the best way to get a complete set. But this time he used crazy point to draw, not the number of times given away. After the lottery roulette started spinning, it finally stopped at the accessory column. Dong! He quickly opened the jade box, and sure enough, as he expected, it was a longevity ring. The effect of the longevity ring is good, but it's not as good as the necklace and bracelet. Of course, he doesn't care about these details, as long as he can get the invincible healing effect. Ding! Successfully collected longevity equipment set. The effect of the set is, increases healing power by 200 times, increases wood element attack power by 50 times. At the same time, there is a special skill, Wood God's Armor. Consumes 1 compressed crazy point to increase healing power by 200 times for 10 minutes. At the same time, you get Wood God's defense effect, increasing defense by 500 times. Replace. After Tianyun put on the longevity equipment set, he immediately felt that his whole body is full of vitality. His recovery ability is already scary enough, but with the addition of the longevity equipment set, his speed is even more amazing. In the blink of an eye, the original wounds on his body were filled up, and at a speed visible to the naked eye, he quickly recovered, and finally became a smooth skin. As long as it's not a heaven-defying attack, he is simply immortal. With super recovery ability, he is an invincible meat shield, he can withstand all the attacks and quickly recover. Kaboom! At this time, Thunder God has recovered and continued to attack. Good! Tianyun laughed, this time with the longevity equipment set, the healing effect is amazing, but what surprised him more is the special skill. Activate, Wood God's Armor. Buzz! The longevity equipment set began to bloom with green light, and soon his whole body was covered with a thin layer of wood armor. It looks very thin, but the effect is amazing. In addition to the more terrifying healing ability, there is also a more terrifying 500 times stacking of defense, suddenly making him full of confidence. Boom! The two collided again. This time, Tianyun was still sent flying, but his body is in a much better condition. His body is only slightly damaged, but it recovered in the blink of an eye. On the other hand, there is a big hole on Thunder God's side, and it needs to slowly recover. Damn it, it's my turn to attack now. While Thunder God is still recovering, Tianyun immediately rushed over to fight it head-on. When he rushed over, Thunder God suddenly grabbed a bolt of divine lightning and threw it in his direction. Tianyun quickly swung the Starlight Divine Spear, and with a boom, he was sent flying. Thunder God's situation is even worse, a big hole appearing on its body. It seems that if I attack in close range, it will still fight back. Tianyun frowned, but he did not stop. Instead, he laughed and said, "See if I don't beat you up this time, I will beat you until you come back to life." This time, he is full of confidence. It seems that the longevity equipment set is more effective than the ancient equipment set. The damage is incomparable, but the defense is much more shocking. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.